So I hope everybody's doing well. Tonight we're going to be talking about Tyranids, I think.
Yes,
and
we
also
are.
a little bit of AOS as well. Yeah. It's going to be pretty good.
Now as well. Hello, everybody over on Warhipster channel. Hope you're well.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Jonathan De Silva. Hello, Dave. Hope it's going well. Hope you're feeling great. It's Sunday. It's the Sunday show. It's dinner time.
Exactly.
For a truly terrifying book.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the thing we're talking about, as I'm once again... This is good, this live stream. I've got, like, instant, background box transportation going on.
It's nice. I like it.
Yes. Yeah.
How are we?
Oh, hope everybody's... Yeah, how is everyone? Everyone in chat. How are you doing? Do let us know. See, we got Des, we've got Mr. Gwatkin, I've got Delios90. Hello, Delios. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Dave says, good evening, Adam. Hope your nids are hungry.
Oh, they're hungry. They are hungry for hams. War hams, in many ways. Yeah, let's get... You know what, I'm going to try... Oh, it's a good book. It's not... Okay, I am going to put it out there now. I'm going to go for the spicy hot take. It's not broken. It's good, but it's not broken.
You would
there are
say
things
that,
in it.
You
no,
because they're your army.
Right. Listen, I'll tell you how I got to this thesis. The book on its own is not broken. There are things in it which are a bit too cheap. There are both points-wise and both strat-wise. I accept that. If you can use Crusher Stampede, it's broken.
Well, at
right?
the moment
That's
my
clarified
that you can't.
Yeah, but I hope they... Put it this way, I hope they clarified that you can't. Right? If you can use the Leviathan supplement, Leviathan becomes the default pick. And we'll go into reasons why later.
Mr.
But it's still not busted.
Boob says hello, by the way. He says, good evening, gents. They're also asking, what's a Tyranid, says Reza Prime. And who's a Tyranid, says
what is a
Tyranids? Jonathan De Silva says he's doing good. Panic painting his 3 race series for the Bristol GT.
When is Bristol? Who's going to Bristol? I'm not going to. I need to go to some of these again. Last one I had in the bank was Manchester.
If John's panic painting, it must be next week. I genuinely believe... Why is a Tyranid? Well, it's a great question, Andrew Begg. One that we will hope to explore in this thing. I genuinely believe that this codex is going to be a massive problem.
You reckon? You reckon it's going to be a big problem? Sorry, hang on. I'm adding, for everyone who's wondering why I'm looking a bit, wondering what's going on, I am just adding to my stream a little picture of Senor Josh's painting desk, which we shall have a look at in just a second. So, yes, carry on. But I don't think it's broken.
Mr. Gwatkin says, I'll do you one better. Why is a Tyranid? It's an excellent reference right there.
Yeah. We got How's a Tyranid as well. Hey, Stony Strikes in my chat, by the way. Hello. Sorry if I'm a bit behind. I'm just working across multiple windows. Let's see if we can get some music going on my stream as well. If this ruins everything, let me know.
Do you want to know why I think this Tyranid codex is going to be a problem?
Why do you think it's going to be a problem, Josh?
So, whilst it's a little tricky to manage going forward for the majority of Tyranid players, initially, the Synapse thing is really good. It's going to be tricky to manage for a number of people because they're not going to have an uncomfortable amount of warriors. That is all going to change because warriors are going to be a big problem. The other problem...
I'm looking at my pile of
Yes, I know you've done 20 warriors. yes, because you're you. The reason I think it's going to be a problem is with the Synapse thing. The fact that you can do each one only once per game, unless you have this Warlord trait, in which case you can do them as many times as you damn well like. And if your Warlord trait is dead, you can do it again for another CP. Oh, sorry. If the unit is actually killed, you can just do it again for another CP anyway, just as long as the Warlord is still alive. This is a problem. It is a huge problem. And the reason why I think this is going to be a problem, Adam, is, let's take a comparative ability, right? Let's say Space Marines who get their Doctrine ability in that Doctrine.
Space Marines. Yep.
Yeah. Say you are the Iron Hands. You can only do it once because you stay in the Devastator Doctrine, and then you have to move out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if within 12 inch of every character, or 6 inches? Let's go with the Tyranids rules. What if the Iron Hands just suddenly got a rule that said any units within 6 inches of a character can just choose what Doctrine they're in?
Yeah, I guess. I just think they're not, like, I think you're giving them a bit too much credit, because you fundamentally you can't do that, right? So the synaptic imperatives, which are what you're talking about, maybe we should explain what these are for people who haven't seen the Tyranid book. What synaptic imperatives are is they are effectively the monofaction bonus now for Tyranids. Right, so they are an ability which, as Josh says, having a synapse creature in your army gives you a synaptic imperative ability, and they all have different synaptic imperative abilities. So, for example, you can see a flying hive tyrant up there behind me on the shelf. He has a synaptic imperative ability. His one is, I will tell you exactly what it is in 2 seconds. Where are these? Where I'm going to lose where the synaptic imperative ones. He allows you to fall back and charge, basically, from combat, right? But the way it works is you turn your synaptic imperatives on at the beginning of a command phase, and they come on for every synapse creature on the battlefield in like a little bubble of 6 inches around them. So they affect obviously themselves and non-synapse creatures within 6 inches of them. And the whole idea is you cannot use a synaptic imperative ability twice. So you have to kind of cycle through them, right? For the whole army wide. Now, as Josh says, there are abilities which allow you to manipulate that a bit. So the one I would argue is probably a bigger bet is actually, there's a psychic power, which is the Leviathan native psychic power called Hive Nexus. And what that allows you to do is you select a synapse creature, you select a unit within synaptic link range, which is 12 inches of a synapse creature, or if you've got a synapse creature within 12 inches of the one you're picking on, that synapse creature, right? So you can broadcast it. And then what you do is you say, the synapse creature who you selected, their synaptic imperative is on for the target unit in addition to the one that's on for your army wide. So you can have, with Leviathan, you can have like 2 going at once, but on 1 creature.
Yes.
So it's very good, but it's not, I don't think it's as quite as broken as you make out, perhaps.
4+ invulnerable save. Just do that every turn.
Yeah, but there are other ways of doing that in the book anyway, right? So you can have Dermic Symbiosis. You can stick that on a big monster.
That's the point. And then you stack Crusher Stampede on top, where you can do are basically 2 stratagems that do fundamentally the same thing and do it twice. Okay, we don't have the answer whether or not it will still be usable, but I bet it will, because it's not gonna. Why? Unless they put out an FAQ that says this thing that was used in White Dwarf, wasn't it? Leviathan and Crusher.
Crush Stampede Stampede's in Leviathan. Crush Stampede is in White Dwarf.
Yeah.
And Leviathan is in the Octarius Rising Tide, I think it is, book.
Well,
so that was in an army book. Yeah, so I think that'll stay around, right? And Leviathan makes Leviathan very good, but I don't think it makes them like completely busted. I think if Crush Stampede stays around for any army, Crush Stampede is it's too much. They need to sort that out. They need to FA. I agree with that. Like I don't necessarily think Crush Stampede is the best way to run the army now. Like there's more interesting builds you can do. But if you can do Crush Stampede, don't do it, guys. It'll be busted as all hell.
I genuinely think. I genuinely think this book not next weekend when it's out, the weekend after, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You'll recall that I said the same thing about the Eldari book, and you also said that you didn't think it was going to change the meta, and look what's happened with the Harlequins.
In my defense, I said I didn't think pure Eldari was going to change pure Craft Worlds was going to change the meta, right? I said the Harlequins looked very powerful, and I didn't know what they were going to do. My other thing I would say about this is about the Tyranids. I think anyway, right? There are some things in the book that are So like the mortal wound output in the psychic phase, right? It's incredibly high. If you line it up properly, it's incredibly high. Mm-hmm. But fundamentally, a lot of the other stuff in the book is just about the models are very like the units are tough and they kick out a lot of attacks, right? There's not so much reliance on like, oh, everything is -1 to hit. Oh, everything has a 4-up invuln save, right? I've got a warlord and everything is, the Harlequins rely on like layering buffs on like T3 models, right? Which they sort of need because otherwise they'll go downhill. Fundamentally, there are armies out there. I could stick a block of Termagants down, which are now 8 points a model, right? They're very good. They've got a very good gun because everyone's complaining about like the bolt, bolts as being worse than a flesh borer, which is fair enough. But I can stick them down on the board. There are armies that will eat through 30 of them easily. And they do plenty of other stuff.
Is it them or is it Hormagaunts that now have a 9-inch move and a 6-inch consolidate and plus 3 inches if they fail a charge?
That's Hormagaunts. That's Hormagaunts.
Right.
And they're T3 5-up save. So this is the interesting thing about this book, I think, that's quite cool. And I've seen a lot of arguments on like Tyranid Discord about how you build your army. Because the book kind of seems geared towards monsters. Mm-hmm. Right, everything has kind of got better, but it's geared towards big stuff, which is cool because Tyranid big stuff is fun, right? It's again when it's not like slightly over the top Crusher Stampede, it's really good and fun to play against. I think because you're dealing with big monsters. If you ever watched Pacific Rim, you can live out your kaiju slapping dreams, right? But the horde side of it has probably been cut down a little bit.
See, I think it's going to. So I was looking at this and you say it's Hormagaunts that have a 9-inch move.
I don't think their move is 9 off the bat. Hang on, let me have a look at the data sheet. They are Where's my troops? Hormagaunts. They're a 10-inch move, and they can so you can give them adrenal glands and stuff to make them an 11-inch move, which is pretty good. They have the bounding leap rule, which means each time the model in the unit makes a pile-in, it can move up to an additional 3 inches. Yeah. So you get a 6-inch pile-in off the bat, right?
So what's the ability that is, if you fail a charge, just move 3 inches anyway?
That is one of the adaptive traits.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones that's basically an auto-take, isn't it? Because this is the problem with that ruling, is it doesn't actually say you have to move towards the nearest model.
Yeah.
You just go, oh, I'm going to make that 12-inch charge. Oh, look, I failed it. I moved 3 inches onto the objective.
Yeah. It gives you a lot of play with movement, for sure. I don't know how many people are going to take that one. It's a good piece of tech. But then you're going to be giving up something, right, to be able to use that.
Unless you just
because that's an adaptive
move a unit into that adaptive.
Yeah, true.
On your big fast thing, Gene Stealers now infiltrate, and they have a 9-inch move.
Yes, lost their advance and charge. They're not as good. It's interesting actually. The Gene Stealer one's an interesting change in the book because they're not as on paper. They're not as good as pure strain Gene Stealers in the Gene Stealer cults.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting, right? Because everybody sort of assumed they would be the same.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, pure strain Gene Stealers are more Gene Stealery than Gene Stealers.
It's kind of ironic, really, because like a pure strain Gene Stealer is what is in the Tyranid army. You would have thought.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this book, because when we talked about it last and you said, oh, you do telling me about all the horrible nonsense you're going to do to it, I was like, this isn't a Nids book. This isn't. It doesn't feel like a Tyranids book. I mean, it feels like a Tyranids book, but it feels like Monster Mash, which is what we've seen for days and days and days, which is fine. That's a way of doing it. But there has to be, for me, with Tyranids, more so than anything else, apart from orcs maybe, the way that those armies feel is, we always talk about, my favourite thing was when somebody told me they were bringing the Green Tide and they had 15 models.
Right.
So that's not a Green Tide.
Yeah.
The Great Devourer, the Devouring Mass, and you're bringing 15 models again, or even less. What was yours? 20 models for your Crusher Stampede list?
Oh no, God! Hang on, it was probably less than that. It was for Crusher Stampede. It was so 9 warriors, Scythe Hierodule, Barbed Hierodule, Harpy, Stonecrusher Carnifex, because they're cool, even though they're a bit rubbish. Well, they were a bit rubbish. I guess they're still the same Forge World. They've not been updated yet. Flying Hive Tyrant, Neurothrope. So what's that? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Just trying to think, what else did I have in that list? What else did I have in that list? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It was like 20 models or less. It was 20 models or less for sure.
Lewis Chapman says he thinks CWE strolls through the data slate. Only thing that stands to get nerfed is possibly Eldritch Storm. Think they can out-psyker Nids, maybe. Nope, Eldar cannot out-psyker the Nids.
Not anymore. Not anymore. The Tyranids are the most powerful psychic army in the game.
What did you say? 30 mortal wounds a turn?
Well, so myself and Gwatkin Gaming, Mr. Richard Gwatkin, who's in the chat on both channels actually, on both channels. He and I were discussing this, and we reckon it's like around 30 mortal wounds fairly reliably, just like in psychic pretty much. I think you can do like 27. I mean, you can get 12 alone. So if you bring a Maleceptor, so you want to talk about units that have got a massive glow up, right? The Maleceptor, a lot of people thought he was a bit rubbish because in the old 8th edition, I mean, all the data sheets in the old book weren't actually very good, right? Again, people are probably going to shout at me in chat because, you know, it's a controversial thing to say perhaps, but the old Tyranid book, the data sheets were rubbish, the stratagems were amazing, and then what they did is they said, oh, here, have Leviathan, that makes Leviathan really good. Oh, here, have Crusher Stampede, that makes Crusher Stampede really good, right? And they patched the old data sheets. So the Maleceptor, and if you don't know what Maleceptor is, by the way, well, actually, I'm not going to get him down, but he's the guy who's like hiding up on the shelf behind my Morlock. He's the big brain bug. He wasn't really taken that often because he was seen as being a little bit rubbish. And now, he's amazing. So I liked running him in my Crusher Stampede because he gave you access to a strat that meant you could have all incoming damage be -1 strength, right? That strat has gone. That strat is now a psychic action he can do. And he is a Synapse creature, and his psychic imperative allows you to do an action and cast in the same turn. He also has the rule which says that if you do an action, if you cast, you do 3 mortal wounds to the nearest enemy unit within 12. Or I think I'll double check because it might be to any enemy unit within 12 before I say nearest. It is to each time it model successfully manifests a psychic power or completes a psychic action. If the result of the psychic test was 7 or more after resolving the psychic power, the closest enemy unit within 12 suffers the number of mortal wounds according to a table. Basically, if it's got more than 8 wounds on the Maleceptor starts with 15, 3 flat mortal wounds, right? There is a pretty nasty combo that you can do, and this doesn't have to have line of sight, where you stick your Maleceptor forward, and bear in mind he is a T8, 3-up save, 15 wound model. He does, you either use his Synaptic Imperative for your battle round, or you use a psychic power from another model that allows you to let him do his Synaptic Imperative. He does his action, so all incoming, range attacks and stuff in the next round are going to be -1 strength. He puts out 3 mortal wounds. He then casts a power. He does his power, he does whatever mortal wound damage he does on that, he then just does another flat 3 mortal wounds, right? You then, and also because he can cast 2, you then do another psychic power, however many mortal wounds you do out of that, he does another flat 3 mortal wounds, and then you drop a CP to make him effectively do another cast, and he does another psychic power, whatever it may be, if it's a damage one, whatever, and then he does another 3 mortal wounds flat. So that's 12 mortal wounds just out flat from him without just by doing what he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's a limited range, it's within 12, but you can already see where the power combo is going, and there are people talking about bringing 2 of these things, 2 Maleceptors, in order to really pull this off. So, yeah, that's a bit strong, as we like to say on this stream.
Seems like it's a bit strong. That's a bit strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. They're psychic. So it's interesting because myself and Mr. Watkin were talking about this again. Yes, actually yesterday, and we made the point because we were talking with an Eldar player. So Lewis Chapman is in your chat, who presumably is an Eldar player. At the moment, the way we were talking about this, we had an Eldar player, and he said, "I can't believe we're being out psychicked by the Tyranids." And lore-wise, it does actually sort of make sense, right? The Tyranids are the shadow in the warp. They're all the nastiness, all the sort of power coming out of their psychic phase, and their psychic phase is brute force, right? What the Eldar should do is the Eldar should cast really reliably. They should have psychic mastery, I think. And this is all credit to Richard Watkin here on this, because he came out with this kind of phrasing, and I think it's perfect. The Eldar should have psychic mastery. The Eldar should be really good at casting really reliably and being able to, like, you know, protect stuff, and I'm not just naming the spell, but like protect stuff, buff stuff up, and things like that. The Tyranids do a little bit of that, but actually most of what they're about is just, no, we're going to make it really hard for you to cast because of the shadow in the warp, and we are just going to brute force you with the sheer weight of the hive mind, and that's it. It's a blunt instrument. There's no kind of finesse to it, really. So I don't know. That's the kind of lore basis, I guess, of why they're very good at psychic powers. Also, bear in mind that zoanthropes and neurothropes are made out of Eldar, right? When Eldar get turned into biomass, they get made into a zoanthrope or a neurothrope. So it's Farseers, I guess, that get turned into that. So yeah, there you go.
I understand.
Delicious.
The question is,
yeah. Hang on, I'm going to get your building window on my thing, but keep going.
The question is, did they really need all of their units to get glow up?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I say yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Did all of their Hive Fleet adaptations, or whatever it's called, chapter tactics for lack of a better word, need a glow up? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Did they then need adaptive physiologies, where you can choose the thing that you have? Because bear in mind, like, you know, the thing I have a slight problem with is, again, taking the example of the Space Marines.
Yeah.
Is you deciding, like, let's say you're an Iron Hands player. Let's say the one thing that you decide you don't really want is the Feel No Pain. You'd much rather have what's the Ultramarines one?
Fall back and shoot.
In the tactical doctrine, right?
Oh, no, sorry. In the tactical doctrine, their thing is movement. You can move and as if you're standing still, isn't it? I think people in chat correct me. What's I've forgotten what the Ultramarines one is.
Okay, well let's go with, for lack of a better option, the one I actually know. The Blood Angels, +1 attack and all that in the combat doctrine. Right. Let's say that it just, like, you're an Iron Hands player and you say you don't want the 5-up invuln. What you do in fact want is you want +1 attack in the combat phase, and it's not just the combat phase, it's all the time.
Yeah, but I think there's a couple of issues with that, right? Which is that the Space Marines. So your Space Marines get their, you know, they do get the double bonus as well, right? Because they have their chapter trait, and then they get the one phase where they do one thing specifically, right? And
I mean,
in a sense,
yeah. I mean, it's the Hive Fleet adaptation. It's not a one-turn thing. It's an all-the-time thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, but bear in mind, the Hive Fleet adaptations. Yeah, sure.
You know, when you can where you can choose between hunt, prey, or the other one.
Yeah, the adaptation, hunt, prey, and lurk.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
The thing I find slightly, I'm a bit like whoa with it is, whilst there are clear standouts in terms of which Hive Fleet you could run, all of them have a way of going, yeah, I'll do that to cover that weakness, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like the you know the change to like, you know, the souping within faction thing, I thought was really really positive. so that you couldn't take Bloody Rose and Argent Shroud. Because you should have to have some sort of weakness based on your choice. Not necessarily a weakness, but you can't just have the most potent thing for everything on the table at once. That's kind of where the skill of building a list comes from, as it were.
Unless you're Death Watch.
Unless you're Death Watch. But part of the skill of building an army is to say, and it reinforces this now, is, well, if I take Bloody Rose, I know that I'm not going to take tons and tons of shooting, because what I'm actually good at is combat. Whereas previously you were going, I'll put all the combat there and all the shooting there, and I'll get the best of all worlds.
Yeah, but I think especially on Hive, so I think there's two things here, right? So Hive Fleet adaptations, they're very good. They represent the ability of the Tyranids adapting to stuff. Lore-wise, fluff-wise, I'm kind of fine with that. And obviously they do, you swap them out. So we should explain, sorry, viewers, if you haven't seen this, right? The Hive Fleets now have basically two parts to their trait. So they have a kind of fixed bit and an adaptive bit. And the adaptive bit can be swapped out for an ability from one of two specified tables. Right, there are 3 tables in total, so 15 abilities. There are 5 in each table, and each fleet has the ability to swap out from a selection from 2 of those tables. So, for example, Leviathan gets access to the Hunt table and the Feed table. It does not get access to the Lurk table, right? And the other Hive fleets do it different ways. And this ability is swapped out at the beginning of the game, specifically actually after you've deployed and you know who's going first. So it gives you the ability to adapt a little bit to your opponent. So that's when it kicks in, and then it's army-wide for the game. However, they do only affect certain things, So obviously some of them are very powerful, right? So there's +1 to charge is a good example. +1 to charge, army-wide, really, really, really good, right? But obviously, not really useful on your non-combat units. So again, I kind of say it's the same. It's actually very similar in many ways to the Sisters. Sisters are a good example with their ability to take one of their I can't remember what it's called now. Their sacred rights, right? Where they can take a sacred right at the beginning of the game, or they can roll for 2, and then have that ability army-wide for the rest of the game. So exploding classic one I always used to run my Bloody Rose list was the Passion, which gives you exploding 6s in combat. Because again, it really leans into your combat build. So if you've got a combat Tyranid army, you're probably going to go, I would imagine, for your +1 to charge, right? Or if you're a combat army and you're up against, say, Tau, you might go, do you know what? If you have access to it, I'm going to go for army-wide, you cannot overwatch against me. Right? To really lean into your combat build. So it does kind of, ping off of that. But yeah, it's the adaptive as like a bonus that you get in the Tyranids. I think the adaptives are really cool. And actually, they do offer some interesting choice, because the Leviathan one, which is, where is it? It's re-roll a hit roll or a wound roll for every unit. Right, that in and of itself is very powerful. So then you choose to, then you might choose to swap that out. You do have to actually sort of do a bit of decision making, which is quite nice.
Yeah, the thing I would put to you is if the meta build comes out as it's Leviathan and you run a bunch of Hormigorns, you're never going to keep the Leviathan one, because what's the point in having one re-rollable hit and one re-rollable wound?
Yeah.
There's
you're going to go. You're going to go.
You'd ever do it.
You're going to go for the plus to charge. Sure, definitely.
Exactly, and people will build their army based on that, which is absolutely what they should do. The thing I think that this book, from everything that I've read and everything that I've discussed about it, I think what this book brings up, it brings into stark relief the conversation that we have had before as well about AdMech. Just because it's fluffy, should it be there?
Yeah, no, I get you.
Because we have all complained about Skitarii Eye Marshal and the New Sphere. All of us have done.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly fluffy rule. But the prevailing argument is that it's almost too much. Okay, not so much now that AdMech have been kind of toned back.
Yeah. Because it was too cheap at the time. It was too cheap. That was the problem. Because he was a 45-point character, and there was no. It was like it wasn't really a downside to doing it, right? You weren't spending points. Whereas for like your dermic symbiosis, all your upgrades are like you're spending points. The models in this book are a lot more expensive. I think they've kind of gone the Eldari route a little bit with this, which is trying to price them a bit more reasonably. I don't think they're overcosted. I think that maybe sorry to go back to something you said earlier about hordes.
Yeah. I
guess the only argument is if you do want to run a horde, they're probably a bit too expensive because again, Hormagaunts at 8 points a model. I think they're all pretty much 8 points a model actually. Hormagaunts, Termagants, and Gargoyles. So they're pretty pricey. But so running a horde becomes a bit more difficult. But then again, if they were priced at 6 points, I think I would, to be fair, I think Mr. Watkins said it in your chat earlier, and I agree with him. I would happily trade out a worse flesh borer, like a worse gun, to have a 6-point Termagant, so you can run a horde if you want.
Yeah.
I think that would be nice, actually. That is one of the issues with the book.
Yeah. I just think I'm reading this book and going, oh man, all of this is really...
Term is a 7.
It's like... I don't know how to put this, but like, because I'm somebody who loves a fluffy book, right? And I love a fluffy rule. But there's often, like, I think... like the way you translate some of them on the tabletop is slightly weird. The whole Hive Fleet adaptation thing, after you've deployed them before the first turn begins, is so powerful. Because I would argue, and for those fluffy gamers out there, if you play as, again, I keep going to Space Marines. If you play as,
it's almost like you're hard done by because they've not updated Blood Angels.
Space Marines are the blood.
No, I agree.
Are the baseline of the game.
Yes, agreed.
That's where they're supposed to be. The Space Marines and pretty much whoever it is that they're supposed to be against in that edition. They're supposed to be the baseline of the game, so they're who you measure everything against. Technically, is what you're supposed to do, sort of. But if we take the example of Space Marines, if you play as Ultramarines, you should be able to choose your chapter tactic after you've deployed, depending on what you're facing.
Yeah, maybe you could have.
That's a fluffy rule, but they don't have that.
But Space Marines do get the Super Doctrine rule, right? Which Nids, for example, and other armies as well don't have. I mean, that's not to say Space Marines are anywhere. Like if we're talking from a competitive point, that's not to say that Space Marines are anywhere, up in the competitive right now. They're not at all. They do need, and they inevitably are going to get. I guarantee you, in 6 months, we're going to be sitting here with Space Marine Codex Volume 58 or whatever the hell we're on now, and all the new supplements for 9th edition, and it's going to be like Raven Guard meta again. Remember that? Remember Raven Guard meta?
Oh yeah,
Raven Guard Centurions.
I 100%.
Everyone has their time in the sun.
I 100% agree. We're going to get there.
My thing is, I don't think this book is unbeatable. Like, I put it this way, right? And I may be putting myself on the line here, but I will say this: at the moment, a Harlequin's army at 2,000 points goes down, especially with Voidweaver spam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically no other army in the game, even in the hands of a very skilled player, it is far more likely the Harlequins are just going to win. Because they just have that. Sure. This book, now again, for what I'm about to say, I am excluding Crusher Stampede, right? I am deliberately excluding Crusher Stampede. With this book on its own, in the hands of a skilled player, it's going to be incredibly good. Does that mean that something like Tau, Harlequins, obviously they are due for some changes, I think, because we're going to get a balanced stage slate, or Custodes can't beat this? No. I think it is beatable in the hands of a skilled player. Whereas I think the problem with Harlequins, as a comparator example of something that has just broken the meta, are almost unbeatable. Right? They are, because they are just so powerful off the bat that they become incredibly hard even for current S-tier armies to beat. Right? I think Tyranids with this end up as an S-tier army. They're incredibly good. Now, if they get Crusher Stampede, and I've seen a couple of comments in the chat from people, and I agree with you. If Crusher Stampede stays, broken as hell, and I hope it doesn't stay. Now, as Des in my chat said, don't think you need Crush Stampede to make a competitive list. No, you don't need Crush Stampede to make a competitive list. You can make a really good, interesting, competitive list out of this book. And actually, the other nice thing about this book, I think, compared to like the 8th edition Tyranid book, you can make lots of different lists that do different things, and they will all be competitive. Right? There's gonna be stuff that the meta leans towards. Leviathan is incredibly obvious as a choice because its trait is full transhuman on synapse creatures. Guess what? Warriors are a synapse creature. That said, transhuman is very good, but they've only got a 4-up save, so as long as you put enough shots into them, they're probably still going to die. Right? Mr. Watkin and I were having this conversation the other day, which is that warriors are a really interesting example of a unit that's incredibly good, but actually leaning into warrior spam may not be the best way to go, because even in Leviathan, they are still eminently killable.
The question I would put to you is, if you were to build, if I said to you, you can have whatever you want right now to counter what you think will be the meta list in the Tyranids army, what would it be? And I mean currently available, currently available.
Yeah. So I think depending on so I think an orc horde might have some play into this, right?
An orc horde.
Yeah, because actually I think that one of the interesting things is going to be people aren't going to lean into horde clearance, because a lot of the big guns are really good, right? So they'll lean into the big guns. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not in a horde meta at the moment anyway, and I know people are talking about hordes as something even to counter Harlequins, because Harlequins don't play that well into hordes either, right? Sure. The problem we've got is Tau will. So this is the issue at the moment, is that you lean into that, the Tau will just mulch, through a load of boys, right, pretty easily. So that's the slight problem we're leaning into that. But just to counter this book, yeah, I think a horde would be good. I think bringing something like, if you are bringing Space Marines, if you have something that can dampen psychic, so if you're Custodes, your Sisters of Silence become very important. If you are Sisters of Battle, your ability to do the 5-up deny becomes very important. If you're, anything Imperium, you can bring what's the assassin called? Culexus. Is it Culexus, which is the anti-psychic one? You pop that in your list, that is just going to blunt quite a lot of the power. But yeah, I think the ability to do either a horde that can just go in, tie them down, and actually beat them in combat, right, a lot of the time, or something that's going to be really quick, can just get around the board, especially because I think people will lean into monsters as the meta build out of this. Mm-hmm. Something that can get around the board really quickly, be outside the kind of range where the mortal wound output, obviously it's still going to hit you, but where it's going to be really devastating, and can put lots of firepower in. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what people in chat say, right? But I think so, like Harlequins, even I think with some nerfs, would still be a good counter for this actually.
Well, so that
on this kind of speedy, shooty side.
My follow-up question, was going to be, next Saturday, you're going to a tournament, and you're going to take what you think is the competitive list from your Tyranids book.
Yep.
And this is more aimed at probably people like the Art of War guys or whatever, because they'll be going to tournaments in a couple of weeks' time, and they've had the book for a while now. Mm-hmm. Who's going to beat that army? Because they're going to build it. They're going to build it to counter Harlequins, and Harlequins counter everything else. So is it going to be a case of, in 3 weeks' time, we're going to see another 90% or whatever it was win rate for Tyranids?
Maybe. I don't think we'll see that high.
Because what was it? Because I think 70, wasn't it?
Well, look, I think the other thing about this, and sorry, I should have said this earlier. I think the other thing about a lot of the really key abilities in this book, they actually do take quite a bit of skill to line them all up, right? Like the Synaptic link stuff is great, right? But if you are moving your synapse creatures outside, if you're not building your synaptic web, if you're not being very careful with your movement, it goes, right? The synaptic imperatives are great on synapse creatures. They're incredibly good. But on everything else, you need to be within 6 inches of a synapse creature in order for it to work.
Yeah.
So again, it's all about thinking about your movement. So again, the abilities in this are very powerful. There are some which are just default abilities, but actually there's a requirement to kind of think about placing, I think, more perhaps than you have in certain other armies which have been, you know, very overpowered off the bat. That's not to say, again, in the hands of a skilled player that won't necessarily be a problem, but in the hands of like average Joe, me, right, there are inevitably going to be times where you'll go, oh, move such and such here, and then you'll go, oh wait, crap, hang on, now I'm outside my 12 inches, I don't get my synaptic link, you know, or I can't do this, I can't do that, right? The sort of play you set up. So you do have to sort of think about that. Whereas, right, to think about the you know, to compare to, say, the AdMech, right? And again, I have no problem with the new sphere stuff. It's cool, it's fluffy, as you say. The problem was it was costed so cheaply to do something that didn't require, you know, like, for example, the the Marshal's abilities, right? Because some of them could be broadcast through the new sphere. You didn't have to worry about that. You could sit him at the back of the boards, behind some terrain, and then just go, oh yeah, you know those data tether, you know, whatever, that are 45 inches away. Oh yeah, they just get this ability. Yeah. With no real downside. Right? Even the Tyranid abilities with Synaptic links, I'd have to be like, right, my Neurothrope's at the back, but I need to then have something within 12, something within 12, something within 12, something within 12. You know, and the minute that, you know, any player who's playing into it, and I think it will take time for it to adjust, but any player that's playing into it will just go, right, well, I just kill a link in the chain, and the chain collapses, right? So, yeah. Which is, look, me and Mr. Watkin are on the same, we're part of the hive mind. We are sharing the ideas. Because he has just said exactly the same thing. Kill a link in the synapse chain and the buffs can't go where you need them. But that is not to say, I will not pretend for 1 minute, this is not a very powerful book. It is a very powerful book. It has some really cool abilities. It has some excellent data sheets in it. The stratagems are fantastic. The psychic powers are really, really good. Like, it's a good, well-rounded book, and it actually gives you a lot of options and a lot of play, and we will see meta builds for sure. But if you want to run, so I can tell you right now, I don't think, for example, hordes, as I said earlier, would be the way to go. Can you run a horde with this book and it still be really good at quite a lot of like, you know, RTTs or casual events? Yes, absolutely. If you want to do it, you can, which I think is really good. I think that's a really nice. I do think actually we will see a mix of like Leviathan and Behemoth, probably is the two that people will pick on to start with. But potentially we will see a few of those run, you know, by top players at tournaments, who will see more of a mix rather than, for example, everyone takes Light Sadath, you know. But hey, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's have a look at the chat and just see what questions we've got. Oh, Chewy has jumped in the chat. Hello, Chewy. Good evening. Welcome. I hope you're doing well. Fry in my chat is just saying, Prey Crusher Stampede stays relevant army-wide, -1 damage and 5+ invulnerable save is amazing, especially for monsters. It is, Sam, but we don't want it to stay relevant, because if it stays relevant, the Tyranid Codex realistically is probably too powerful, and that means it'll get hit with, eventually, with a nerf bat, which will be horrific. As you've just said, Sam, in the chat, watching live, monsters are finally monsters with monster stat lines. Yes, they are, and you don't need Crusher Stampede to improve that. That's my argument. You don't need Crusher Stampede to improve that. I will happily give somebody a game using Crusher Stampede just to work out how ridiculously overpowered it truly is. But I think it's busted with this book. Who else have we got? Who's in your chat, Josh? Let's have a look. So we've got our monsters. So Rich has asked, are monsters still minus damage? Not generally, no. The Carnifexes are. So Carnifexes are a Dreadnought now. They are -1 damage. Generally, the -1 damage thing was a Crusher Stampede add-on. So again, if they get that, bit much. And Dan says transhuman on monsters, I believe mini transhuman, can't wound on 2s on other stuff. That's right, but it's not on monsters, it's on synapse creatures. That's Leviathan's ability. So Leviathan's ability is full transhuman or transnid, whatever you want to call it, on your synapse creatures, and then mini transhuman on everything else. So yeah, let us know, what questions have you got about the Tyranid Codex? What do you want to know?
I'm firmly in that it's going to be a problem. Camp.
I think some stuff's gonna. So right. Let me give you. So here are my problematic things from the book, because I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's all fine, right? It's not. Some of the strats should be more expensive, right? So good example. There is a strat in here called Encircle the Prey, right? Encircle the Prey allows you at the end of your turn, with no restrictions, to take a unit with the fly keyword or the burrowers keyword. Now, burrowers plural, and most of the units that have this have burrower singular, but GW's kind of, I think it's in the core rules addendum somewhere, they say that pluralization doesn't matter, so it does work. Worst comes to worst, they FAQ it. And you can put them back into Deep Strike immediately, ready to turn up on the next turn. Now that is at the end of your turn, right? So I can fly a Hive Tyrant in, murder a load of stuff, and then just zip off the board for 1 CP. That's too cheap, right? That is way too cheap. That should probably be 2 CP minimum, right? Or have something like, you know, if it's on a non-monster, it is 1 CP. If it's on a monster, it's 2 CP. But even then, there's kind of issues with that, which is frankly is probably a bit busted, because it's a bit like the Taraxi rule, you know. So you could have a unit of gargoyles fly off, do retrieve Nachman data or research and development, whatever you want to call it, and then just zip them off the board, have them appear somewhere else, do it again. Right? You can't then take them off in the turn in which they arrive, but it makes them very uninteractive. So yeah, that one's a bit of a problem. Also, fun fact about Encircle the Prey, because it's a 1 CP stratagem. There is a Tyranid Titan which has the fly keyword, which is the Hierophant, the big Bio Titan from Forge World with 4 legs. It's got the fly keyword, so you can technically do it on the Hierophant. I mean, it's a bit of a meme because you wouldn't be able to fit it back on the board because it's too massive, but it would be quite funny.
I'm struggling with this model.
What are you building at the moment?
I'm building the High Gladiatrix.
Oh, cool. That's from the that AOS box set, isn't it?
Yes, the Arena of Shades.
Nice. So yeah, Rich in your chat says so you can't interact with them, which is always a bad rule. I agree, it is. That's uninteractive. We don't want that. And no, Emaciated Andy, not a Harridan, a Hierophant. If you go to the Forge World website and have a look at it, it's this big 4-legged Titan thing. The Harridan has seen a lot of play in Crusher Stampede, and yeah, it's very good. But I don't have one, and it's like a huge flyer thing, so I probably will never have one. I don't really want that sort of thing. There's other flyers in the book that are really good. Harpy. The Harpy is an incredibly good model and could probably stand to be another 20 points at least, because it's like 145. It's very cheap for what it does.
Really? Do you think the Harpy needs a points increase? That's interesting.
I think the Harpy does need a points increase because, so if people don't know what a Harpy is, it's, again, I think you can sort of see one. She's up there on my shelf. The Harpy has 2 bum holes and she drops spore mines for a start. And she's also got, she can have a pair of heavy venom cannons. And heavy venom cannons have got a glow up on their profile. Heavy venom cannons are 3 shots, strength 9, AP -4, and, AP -3 and 4 damage. They're very powerful. And they're flat 3 shots each, right? So they can just hit stuff. Plus also because she's a bomber, she can fly over things and she can roll up to 10d6 over a unit and drop or I think it's 6d6 if it's a vehicle or monster, and any roll that exceeds the toughness of the unit takes a mortal wound to a maximum of 6. So she can do some mortal wound bombs, or the other cool thing she can do is she can just pick a spot on the battlefield that she flies over and deploy 3 spore mines, right? So you can have your little flying spore mine, little flying testicles basically flying around on the battlefield, and they can blow up and do mortal wounds if people finish a move within 3 inches of them, which is quite cool. What makes her a bit broken, frankly, is the fact that she can pivot twice, like a Admech flyer, right? Or an Eldar flyer. She can do 2 pivots. And she's -1 to hit because she's an aircraft now, she never used to be, but she can charge. And again, combine that with Encircle the Prey, you fly over something, You bomb it. You do a load of mortal wounds to it. You fire your 2 heavy venom cannons into whatever nasty tank monster thing is sitting nearby. You fire. She's got a stinger salvo as well, which is strength 5, AP -1, 1 damage. She does 8 shots out of that. You fire that into some infantry. You charge something, you fight it with your wingy, clawy things, and then you drop a CP and she just flies off the board, and that's it. Done. Gone. So, yeah. Could be a bit more expensive, I would say, because I guarantee top lists are going to take 2 of them, which is going to be grim. I just want to have a look at the chat, because we've got some questions here. So, Chewy has asked, okay, question time. My Nid army is Stealer heavy. Now I see that it has max 2 squads, 2 or 3 Hive Tyrants, 2 Exocrines, and I guess I'm building those Hive Guard as Tyrant Guard. Question is, what should I add and which Hive Fleet should I look at? So I think, yes, Gene Stealers obviously have moved from troops to elites. And you can only have, limited squad size now of 10. They're also... they forward deploy, so they can infiltrate, but they don't advance and charge anymore, so you're going to have to play them a little bit differently. They're still very good. You can still have a couple of units of them. In terms of, so 2 or 3 Hive Tyrants. A lot of people are talking about taking double patrol with either 2 winged Tyrants or 1 wing, 1 walking Tyrant, because you can only have 1 per detachment now, which is perfectly fair. That would be very good. I don't think you need it. You can run a battalion with 1 winged Hive Tyrant, and it's really good. Emily, sorry, just to interrupt myself. Emily's joined your chat, Josh, and says, instantly here, she has 2 bumholes, certainly an introduction. Well, she does. She's up there on my shelf. She is a Harriet, she's a harpy, and if you flip her over and have a look, she has got 2 little spore mine producing sphincters, shall we say. So that's what she's got. Back to Chewy's question. What should you add and which Hive Fleet should I look at? Well, Tyranid Warriors are very good as a troops choice. I think Gargoyles are very good. They're a troops choice now. They've moved from fast attack. They move very quickly. You have 10 to a squad. They've got a decent gun. They're pretty cheap, so they're quite nice. Yeah, I don't know. In terms of what Hive Fleet you should look at, Leviathan, again, is just the obvious choice. It's really very good. Offers you access to a very good psychic power, as well as having just a very good trait. Behemoth, if you want to lean into monsters, go for Behemoth. +1 strength on the charge. Really nice. Yeah, there's lots of choice. But I think, honestly, go for the units you like. Right, I'm not just saying that all the units in the book are good. Just find the ones you like and go for them. Well, sorry, I take that back. Not all the units in the book are good. Mucilid spores as a choice in your army.
I'm just gonna say, before you finish this sentence, you said this to me the other night when I said all the units in this book are good, and you chose 2 of the things that it's like, well, duh. I was just like, if I was in front of you, if I was in front of you, I would slap the clay pipe out of your mouth. It is like the Eldari player going, well, there's 1 unit in this is really bad. The actual shrines that come packaged with your things, those units, they're really bad.
That is not a unit. And I am being factually accurate when we say, are all data sheets in this book good? The answer is no, because there are about 3 of them that you just would never take, because why would you?
Go on, please swarms, tell everybody.
Spore mines as their own thing. Yeah, no, Ripper swarms as their own thing, because you can spawn them lots of other ways. Spore mines as their own thing, because you can spawn them lots of other ways, i.e. the Harpy or Biovores. The Biovore probably isn't particularly great, but it's quite fun to play with. And like Mucilid spores, which are just big spore mines, and the Fortification, which is just a bit pants, but that's about it. They're all really good. Chewy said he likes Hive Guard. I think you're the only person who likes Hive Guard, Chewy. Like, I like them in the sense that they were the one consistently really good data sheet in the old Tyranid book, but like, I didn't like playing with them. They're horribly uninteractive. I'm really glad. I'm really glad that Hive Guard are now 50 points a model, 60 odd points if you bring the Impaler Cannon. And their range is 24 inches, and they are now strength 6, AP -2 damage. They're more infantry killers if you do still want to bring them. So I'm glad they've
Rich has made the exact point. Please read my chat.
That's like saying Servitus Marines. Yeah, it's true, but I am being factually accurate. You're asking me, are all the data sheets in the book good? And the answer is no.
Yeah,
right?
But it's
Is it? Hang on. I'm sorry to get loyally here about it. Is it a datasheet, Josh? Yes or no?
Yes, it's a datasheet.
Is it in the book? Yes or no?
Yep.
Is it a good datasheet in the book? Yes or no?
I don't know. I haven't got the book yet, mate.
It's a bad datasheet. It's in the book. There you go.
Okay, cool. And so for that reason, because the mucilid spores are bad, therefore the Tyranids book is nicely balanced. It's not.
No. Excuse me. Let's just be clear. I never said that. I never made that argument. The book is very, very powerful. It is incredibly powerful. I make no bones about that. But I was asked the question if all the datasheets were good, and the answer is no. Infer from that as you wish. I
am so looking forward to when I speak to you in a fortnight's time, and you're like, "Yeah, I just finished building my 900th mucilid spore." I'm like, "Oh, gee, I thought you said they were really bad." Oh, I saw Manny Chima ran them at a weekend, and he won very comfortably.
If Manny Chima can win with 900 mucilid spores, I actually is the one time I'll be like, "Manny, you're a hero." Like, that will be hilarious. So if anyone wants to laugh, actually, there's a great Goonhammer article from obviously the old codex, or what is now the old codex, but they were challenged to come up with like the worst list possible in like that they could think of, and Inez Wilson, who's one of the like Scotland Team 40k members and long-time Tyranid player, came up with a list that was basically entirely spore mines and mucilid spores, and the fun thing about the list was that approximately 75% of the like army couldn't legally score points. It's actually quite funny, I thought, anyway.
If you run it now, you'll win the LVO.
I'll win the LVO with that, yeah. Easy. I'll win the LVO with that. But yeah, it's a very good book. Look, if you're a Tyranid player, exciting times. Tyranids should be scary. They finally feel a bit scary now. Don't run Crusher Stampede. Please don't run Crusher Stampede.
Oh, everyone will.
It's busted. I know they will, but I can still argue that you shouldn't run Crusher. If you're a good person, you don't need to run Crusher Stampede. You can have a really good army without running bloody Crusher Stampede. You don't need it. And I've run
day one
Stampede.
FAQ. It is a legitimate resource to
use I know.
And so everyone will.
And nobody seems to know at the moment whether you technically can or can't. I know Rich has asked a question, what do the spores do? The spores are they just float around and explode. That's it. The difference with the mucilid spores, I think it does D6. I'll just check, but I think it does D6 mortal wounds rather than like D3, which is what. I think a spore mine probably does 1 mortal wound. Mucilid spores. I don't even know where they are in this damn thing. But yeah, they just float about and they do mortal wounds, basically. That's all. They used to be... So people used to use spores to, like, move block, because you couldn't move through them with that, and you know, if you go within 3, they explode. Now you can just move through them, but if you finish your move within 3, they explode. So it's a little bit better, I think, on both sides for interactivity. I know Dave has just asked, what do we think of the new Parasite of Mortrex? I've got one on pre-order because it seems so fluffy. It's cool. It's a cool like utility unit. It's quite fun. I think if you're running like a fluffy list and you want to just do some fun janky tricks, it's good. It has like a strat where it can do its like inject rippers into a unit twice, like over a unit, one over a unit, it flies over, and then obviously can do it then in combat, which is quite fun. Obviously it spawns ripper units, which is just hilarious because the thing is called It Itches, which is quite funny. And yeah, it's a synapse creature. It moves 12 inches. It's a character, so it can be character protected. Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun unit. I'm going to get one and paint it up just because I think it'll be fun to play with. Do I think it will see play in top competitive Tyranid lists? I mean, who am I? I'm not John Lennon, right? But there's a quote for the ages. But yeah, the will it see play? I don't know. Probably not, realistically. There's other stuff in the book that does interesting things, like the Death Leaper. I'm going to upset Josh now because I can tell him what the Death Leaper does.
My favourite thing about this conversation is, I say I think this book is busted. You go, no it isn't, and then tell me a busted rule.
Oh no, I don't think this is. But no, this isn't busted.
This isn't cool. Busted. No, of course it's not. Go on.
Right. So the this is the Death
Leaper. Is each time, and I am just kidding. You know this, but like.
No, I know.
You know, I've gone, I think this book's a problem. You've gone, no, it's not a problem. I mean, they've got a strat that lets them auto win the game. Oh, well, that seems pretty broken. No, it's not broken because everything in the book is 0 points.
Listen,
hang on, Adam.
No,
hang on. I'm on my rant here. It is funny. I know that you're defending the book, and as right you should, and I am being a little bit harsh on it. Obviously, I can't tell the future. I don't know how exactly good this book is going to be. Reading it on the surface, whenever I read a book, I've lost my damn tweezers. I don't know where they've gone. I had them but a moment ago.
They were stolen by that's a strat in the Tyranid book, by the way. We can steal your tweezers.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
It doesn't cost anything either.
The thing is, reading this book is I looked at it and I went, oh, I can't see a single weakness. Like I you know, quite often you can look at a book and you can go, oh, that's very strong, but I can see how I would counter that. And I looked at it and I thought, I can't see how I would counter this. And to me, that's, you know, I'm not a bad player of the game by any stretch of the imagination. I'm pretty good at it, as we know. Quite often you can see like how you would counter it. Like, you know, I read I'm just going to get my tweezers from over here. I've got a second pair. No idea what I've done with that other pair. I looked at the Harlequins and I thought, you know, this is very strong, but I could see how I could maybe play against it. I mean, it would be horribly hard, but I can see how I would do it. With this book, I look at it and I go, oh boy. You know?
Yeah. Again, I think it's very good. I think it is really good. I think in the right hands of the right player, it's going to be real nasty. Do I think it is completely unbeatable? Like, do I think there will be a situation for certainly? Look, for some armies, if you're playing Genestealer Cult or you're playing, I don't know, what's really rubbish at the moment, Imperial Fists, right? If you put Imperial Fists army down and someone puts a Nid army down in front of you, you've probably lost the game, right? Those Imperial Fist players out there that are listening in chat, please go and play that game and win and prove me wrong. I'd appreciate that. But then again, if you plonk an Imperial Fist army down in front of most things that are 9th edition codexes, you've probably lost the game anyway, right? This is one where if I plonk my Nid army down and somebody plonks down like a Custodes army, that Custodes army or the Tau army or the Harlequins army or an Eldari army, or even, I mean, what other ones have we had recently? What was before Eldari? What was the codex release before Eldari? My brain has just gone.
I can't remember. Rich says you counter them by killing the Synapse creatures, and they're also not anywhere near as fast as they were. I think they're not as fast as they were, but I think collectively everything's got faster. So in a way, it's like you're not flinging, because obviously you can't take your Genestealers in a Kraken detachment and fling them 44 inches or whatever it was anymore.
No, no double move anymore, none of that stuff.
But they do start 9 inches away.
If you're, but again, Genestealers are pretty pricey. So Rich has also made a really good point in the, as my mic decides to escape me, Rich has made a really good point in the chat, which I agree with, and it's because we've been building Nid lists together, right? Which is, you run out of points if you try and take, because there is so much stuff in this book that is just, you know, it's quite good, it's fun to play with, you want to build a good list, you run out of points before you're gonna like absolutely like build it as you want, because actually the stuff in here is, most of it is reasonably priced. There are some things which I think should be more expensive, I completely agree with that, but most of it is pretty reasonably priced for what it is, right? Especially in the troop slots. So if you do want to build like a battalion, you know, they get again, I say that warriors maybe could be a bit more expensive, or you should have to pay for like the bone swords or something, which are currently free. But even then, 25 points a model, 3 model squads, like, you know, they're not like super cheap. So yeah, and you can focus stuff down, I think. Like what I'm saying is, I think if you take this to a tournament, again, this is all going to be skewed by the fact that people are going to lean into the book, I think, and actually people are going to lean into the book depending on what happens tomorrow or Tuesday or whenever we're due to get this balanced data slate. If this balanced data slate nerfs Harlequins, and which it should, and it nerfs like Tau very heavily and Custodes, then it becomes people will, I think, lean more into the NID book. If the Tau and the Custodies take like reasonable points changes but still keep a lot of some of their core, the core rules that make them function, I don't know what you do about Harlequins, because again, a Harlequin army will still easily beat a Tyranid army from this book, right? I don't think it's not like an auto loss. The problem we have at the moment, the reason that the Harlequins have really busted the meta wide open, is because you can take a Custodies list, you can be a decent player, you put it down on the board, a Harlequins player sits opposite you, you've lost the game. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time you've lost the game, right? Same for Tau, right? Same for Eldari, whatever. I think, and look, if I'm wrong on this, I am wrong on it, and that's fine, and I'm happy to be contrite about that, but I think, right, if you take two top players, you sit them down, one takes a good Tyranid list, one takes like a good Custodies list, or a good Tau list, or a good Eldari list, or a good, Harlequins again, I'm having to caveat here because a good Harlequins list is just mental, right? But you put them on the table opposite each other, I can't tell you, at the start of the game, I'm not going to sit there and go, Tyranids have won that. I'm going to sit there and go, we've got a game, and this is going to be interesting, and this is going to be good, and there's going to be some good interaction here. And that again, that's the other thing I will say about this book. Even if it ends up too powerful, even if stuff ends up needing price hikes and nerfs, go ahead, GW, do it. That's fine. This book, for the vast majority of the units, is not uninteractive. Right? They will have to engage with you to do what they need to do. Like, Tyranid combat is really good, right? It's really good, but they're going to have to throw themselves in, they're going to have to do some damage and actually get in there and fight you. It's not going to be a case of stuff sitting at the back of the board like Hive Guard did, or like a Void Weaver can, and just firing at you all game. You'll have like one unit that does that, which is like, I don't know, an Exocrine, right? But that's what an Exocrine's meant to do. It's an artillery bug. It just moves around the back of the board and shoots stuff. All your other stuff is going to come forward, it's going to try and fight you, it's going to try and psychic you, it's going to try and get in range and do stuff and do interesting things. It's an interactive book. And that, for me, I think is pretty decent codex design. Again, happy to say that stuff might need to be made more expensive. Stuff might need CPs. Again, there are strats in particular that need CP increases, right? I just think they do, because they're just too cheap for what they do.
I think Rich has raised a very good point in my chat.
Yeah.
The issue there is it's playing against other super strong armies, the rest auto lose.
Yeah, but that's the game,
that's the
right?
Game
I think
general.
that's the game in general, right? That's a problem. So the problem is at the moment that what we have is a layer of codexes, right? So Eldari in one form or another, Drakari were up there and kind of still have some good builds. Admech were up there, also still potentially have some power in quite a few games. And then Custodies, Tau, Harlequins, GSC, unfortunately, I think kind of fell by the wayside, but I feel like there's room for GSC to do some interesting stuff, and there are some really good players out there with GSC that, in a kind of more balanced meta would do it. I think the other thing to bear in mind to finish that thought, but then there's a load of other books that are just nowhere, right? The Space Marines are nowhere, the Chaos Space Marines are nowhere, and when the Chaos Space Marine book comes out, they're going to be really good. They're going to be really good, and that's great,
What about my demons, hey, Adam?
I've heard some things and some stuff. I've heard rumours on the grapevine of exactly what the demons might be up to, and yeah, then we can have this conversation in reverse. When you're telling me the demons codex is fine.
Honestly, I will, when that book comes out, if it's too much, I will do what I always seem to end up doing, going, oh, this is too much, I'm now going to take something really bad from it.
I mean, the other thing about this book, I think, someone mentioned it, said, is this not like Admech, and they're not like also stacking buffs? I actually don't think there are. Not in quite the same way, mechanically, I guess. Like, I don't think... So it's a stupid anecdote, right? But having played a couple of games with this, my command phase is, even with the various things I've got, is nowhere near as long as, like, the Admech command phase, for example, at its worst height, when it was like, I'm activating this, which means these guys get this, and this guys get that. It's just, I have these abilities, they're on for the game, he gives reroll ones to hit to him, he gives reroll, if you've got a Tyranid Prime, he gives reroll wound rolls of 1 or something, and that's it, and then boom, off we go. Right, now we'll do our movement and our psychic. There's not as much, in that way. I don't know, maybe that's a silly way to look at it. But what I was going to say about all of this, about this whole conversation, because I don't disagree, this is a very powerful book, and maybe if next weekend it is absolutely dominating, then yeah, it will need some changes. And again, there are already things in here which I think need change to caveat to begin with, right? But the problem with all of this and all of this conversation, even about like Harlequins and Tau, etc., is that it's interesting how skewed we are by, and you and I have had this conversation before, right, off camera, about how skewed things are by the competitive meta. Because as we say, right, people lean into, so if the Harlequins get nerfed into the ground, and Tau and Custodes, all the top players will switch over to Tyranids because it's the latest book, it's new, it does some interesting stuff, right? I think they'll probably switch over, right? And then that skews it even more. What I think about this is, for your average person going to their average RTT, is this going to be completely busted in the way that like Harlequins are a bit of a point and click army? Probably not.
Okay, so the question I'll put to you, forget about competitive play.
Yeah.
Think about the sort of like the clubs in the Midlands or in the West Country or whatever. Dream of Dudley. Yeah, picture Dudley Wargamers massive.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and fairly casual, let's say it's a casual kind of club that meets up every so often to play games of Warhammer.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is a little bit of a shame about 40k at the moment is it very much seems like those...
I'm eating marshmallow.
Huh?
Sorry, I said I'm eating marshmallow while we do this, which is why I'm reaching into a bowl off camera.
I thought you were calling me a marshmallow. I was like, I haven't even finished.
You are a marshmallow. You are a marshmallow, but in like a nice way. You're soft and cuddly, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I am all of those things. The worry is for me, with 40k in general, is like those games inevitably get the bleed through from competitive, like, people who are just starting out or whatever. And like, I feel bad for people who kind of join the world of Warhammer with the game this competitive at the moment. Like, because I genuinely agree with you. I think this book is so Tyranid, it's awesome. If you wanted an introduction to being a Tyranid, you can. This is awesome. Like the books though, at the moment, I kind of when they come out, I go, oh god, someone somewhere is about to lose a lot of friends in their local club. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get you there.
Which, I mean, it's obviously it's player's choice at that point, but what you're going to be taking. It's just, the books are so powerful.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess it's a wider problem with the game, right, at the moment, that we do just have this kind of effect across the books. I mean, I think I just looking at the chats, Dan says, I feel like a less competitive player, this is in your chat, Dan, I feel like a less competitive player would not know what to do against them, unlike a competitive player would. I think that's right, but then I think a less competitive player with the Tyranids might not know how to use them, super effectively. I think they're still, like Mr. Watkins, right, they are an A-tier army, they are still really good, right? They're going to be like a good army to bring, whatever you do, but there's certainly going to be things that will, like, it's quite easy to make mistakes with this book, I think, because of how you need to think about, like, movement in this book is I mean, movement in the game is the way you win the game, but especially with the Tyranid book now and the way that it relies on stuff being in range of other stuff. So, Mikey's Wargaming has made the point about, Psychic doesn't need range because it goes to each synapse unit until it hits the target, so it can Psychic across the board and can't deny it. That is true of some powers. It is not true of all powers. To give you an obvious example, Smite doesn't do that because that would be busted as all hell. So but again, you do need to build your, and that gets quite fluffy for Tyranids, you do need to build your synaptic web across the board. And the other thing they've done, there's a small change on this point about movement, the ignoring morale, the synapse ability that you have. That's got that range has actually decreased. That was 12 inches on most synapse creatures, and then 18 I think on Hive Tyrants. It's now down to 6 inches off everyone. So like your little bugs, if you are running your little bugs, if a lot of them get killed, they are just more likely that you'll either have to need to spend the CP on them, or they will just run away because their leadership is terrible. So again, you have to really think about your movement, think about how you're using them. And again, you can build a quite fluffy combo with a Tervigon, and a load of Termagants, and she will respawn Termagants as well. So you can kind of lean into that kind of build as well. But yeah,
Andrew said
I mean,
interesting.
What's Andrew said?
Andrew said
gave on the idea.
AOS at least feels like the middle is fairly consistent, even if the top end is still spiky.
It's still spiky, yeah. But I mean, hey, look, hang on a second, right? I'm gonna put my critic who knows nothing about anything hat on here, and I am about to be an op-ed writer in the Daily Mail or the Daily Telegraph and opine on a subject I know nothing about, and Josh will quite happily correct me. But I do this for the purposes of keeping an entertaining stream, which is to say this: is it not the case that AOS has also got? Like, yeah, I agree the middle is better, but like you did have exactly the same problem with the dragons, right? Such that they introduced that rule that says if you're one of the lower competing armies, you get like more points if you kill stuff from a top competing army. Is that right? Am I completely off track there?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not specifically dragons, it's specifically a number of things. But as we saw in that graph that you sent me,
yeah,
the Stormcast had the most amount of games played and still sat within the acceptable bandwidth of win percentage.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Which either shows that they're incredibly busted and people are winning a lot higher with them, or it shows that they consistently sit like they're easier to beat. And I would say it's both. It could both be true.
Bit of both. Yeah, I think both could be true. I mean, as I say, I don't play AOS, so I don't know. It's interesting to see the comparison. But I think AOS is the more balanced game out of the two at the moment. I hold my hands up and say that iOS seems to be the more balanced game.
Yeah. Based on the data set that we have, as of a couple of weeks ago, when there was it Innis did it?
It was Innis and 40k Fight Club, who are a bunch of guys over in the US.
Yeah, they just did this is what the win percentages of everyone are, but I think it was between February and March, wasn't it, or something like that.
You know what? I can try and find the graph if we would like, and I can try and put it on screen on my chat. Actually, no, I won't do that because it'll mess up with the windows and stuff. But yeah, like it showed the win percentage, raw win percentage, and basically suggested that anyone between a 45 and 55% win rate was like reasonable. Beyond that is a bit too much, and then below that is probably factions that need immediate boosting. And out of that, I think the Tau and the Custodians in 40k were on like 68 or like above 60, and the Harlequins on their own were on like 70.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, and to credit to, we debated this like quite stringently, but my friend Ed Sandman, he made the point that win percentage is not necessarily the best way of representing everything, because the graph showed that Tyranids were on like 55%, therefore within the bounds of reason. Does that mean Crusher Stampede is not incredibly good? No, it is incredibly good. Of course it is. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really difficult thing to sort of go through and I think to balance overall. But like there are some things where again there are obvious rule combinations or builds that should get changed. So Harlequins, as I say, there are strats in this book that need to be more CP. There are units in this book that probably need to be a bit more expensive. I think that's probably the way it's to go. To be honest.
It's an interesting book.
But I mean, is there anything else before we sort of, I guess, move on to talk a little bit more about Fondia, which is where Josh is going to talk a lot more and educate me on the new AOS release.
I actually think
is there anything else?
Know more about that than I do.
Oh really? Yeah. I know very little. I just know it exists. That's about it. I
haven't really read it.
But I mean, is there anything else anybody wants to know about the NID book, about some of the wacky nonsense you can do in it, about some of the good units, anything like that? Do let us know in the chat. So, and also, sorry, I should have said thank you earlier. Stony Strikes in my chat has pointed out that the book released before Custodies and all that lot was Gene Stealer Cult, so the junior Tyranids. So yeah, they had some play for a little bit.
Andrew says the Hunters/Hunted rule and the low tier armies getting double points for it were, in my opinion, two different rules that Twitter took as GW, thinking this made those armies competitive, which in fact its aim was to squish the top and bottom closer to the middle, which is what it does do. So it goes premier unit in top level army here, if killed by these hunters in low tier army here, you get double points for it. So what happens is you can outscore the higher competitive armies, which what then makes the competitive army do is go, well, do I really want to take that? Does the power that they have offset the extra points being lost, given that it's a points game? It's a really, really interesting mechanic, and one that I don't know how you would do it in 40k, but it's definitely something that's warranted, and you might see something like that appear in the balance data slate.
Yeah, maybe we will. Maybe that's how they'll change it.
I don't know.
Be interesting if they do.
It, but be interesting to see if they do.
That's an interesting question from Dan. He says
you get extra points. Sort of. It's kind of like that. It's more like if, Sylvaneth or whatever. Basically, if Sylvaneth can kill a Stormdrake Guard, it will cost. It will be like double points. I can't remember the exact wording of it. I can get it up in a minute if we prefer. But it is kind of a bit like that sort of Mikey's Wargaming. You score even more points if you do it with specific things or whatever. I can't remember. Let's get the rule up now, shall we?
Yeah, why don't we have a look? Because that is quite interesting. It's an interesting bit of game design, and you do often find the stuff that's in AOS filters over into 40k. So, we might see that move across. Dan's asked an interesting question. He says, "Do you think struggling armies should be given an extra 200 points or something to help them compete?" Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting way of doing it, but I just think you just balance. You just deal with the overpowered stuff, right? Just points changes, and to be fair, rule changes. You adjust rules. So to give you a prime example of something which should change in the current meta. My music stopped as well. Get my music going again. The Trajan Valoris should be more than 160 points, right? He's way too cheap. He shouldn't be 160 points. Morven Val is like 240, and she probably does roughly around the same sort of level as him, so he should be north of 200 for sure. Custodes, and to be clear, I say this is somebody with a Custodes army as well. I'm not just saying this to pick on Custodes. The Custodes shouldn't have two 1 CP strats that allow interrupts at the same time. Custodes Transhuman should be 2 CP, because Grey Knight's Transhuman is... Sorry?
Grey Knights is 3 CP.
Is it 3? I thought it was 2. I thought it was 2 CP.
Rich said it was 3 CP earlier. He might have been lying.
Yeah, Rich, let us know. Yeah. Okay, this is now turning into what would we improve about 40k stream, and I like that. That's really because I like getting ideas. Mikey's Wargaming says Void Weaver 200 points. Yeah, maybe. Or also just get rid of the squadron rule on them, or say that you can only bring 3 in a detachment or something. Or no, you'd have to say. You'd have to say three individual Void Weavers rather than 3 squads of 3, which is what people can do. Crisis 60 points a model. I don't know, maybe a bit much. I think with Crisis Suits, what you do is you say, I don't know, make the airburst fragmentation projector 18 inches again and make it a bit more expensive, or alternatively, really lean in and go, I'm sorry, you don't get airbursting fragmentation projectors because they don't come in the box. They only come in the commander. They don't come in the crisis suit box. Get rid of those. Mikey's Williams says Val is 280, so there we go, I was wrong. She was 40 points more expensive. And Reza Prime says, for me, I would scrap and burn the bodyguard rule with this massive smile on my face. And I agree with you. Yes, get rid of the bodyguard rule. Tyrant guard, get it in this new book. It means you can jump a hive, and it means you can jump a hive tyrant back behind them, and then he's untargetable. No, it shouldn't work like that. Have it as like if you're the nearest unit, you can still be shot. It should never be a situation where like Tyrant Guard or Celestian Sacrosants or something, or Crisis Bodyguards are behind a wall and untargetable, and like, whatever the character unit they're protecting is in front of the wall and just can't be hit. It's just stupid. Alright, get rid of it. Get rid of the bodyguard rule, or change the bodyguard rule, I would say.
I've got the battle the hunt rules up.
Let's go for the hunt rules. And sorry, OICU 812 on my chat. I will answer your point in a second. So sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Battle Scroll the Hunt. This battle scroll introduces priority targets and prime hunters. Priority targets are some of the toughest adversaries in the mortal realms, and players score victory points for taking them down. Prime hunters are armies that are further rewarded for eliminating these foes. This document is a match play supplement for use in battles fought using the Pitch Battles Battle Pack. It will be updated over time in response to new releases and results from match play events. If a Battle Tome or Battle Tome update has more recent publication date than this document, units from that publication may not be designated as either priority targets or prime hunters. Priority targets. Right. The units listed in the tables below gain the priority target keyword as well as a reward value. Each time an enemy priority target unit is destroyed and it was not destroyed by a friendly priority target unit, you immediately score a number of victory points equal to the reward value of that unit. If the destroyed priority target unit was reinforced, score one additional victory point for each time the unit was reinforced. Some factions, sub-factions, and army types are listed as prime hunters. If you command a prime hunters army, each time you score any victory points for a destroyed enemy priority target unit, you score one additional victory point. So,
cool.
Grand Alliance Order. Add the priority target keyword to the following units: Dracothian Guard Fulminators, Stormdrake Guard, Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows, Huracan, Spirit of the Wind, Severith,
Dragon
Lord
stuff,
of the Seventh Wind, Bloodstalkers, Marathi Kane, Bastillodon with Solar Engine, and the Salamander Hunting Pack. Prime Hunters.
So for people who don't play
Sylvaneth.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, for people who don't play AOS, right, that's like the top units at the moment, right? So the dragons, the guy who's the like flying fox with a bow.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that? Yeah.
For order.
Yeah.
So, if you are playing against Stormcast Eternals.
Yeah.
And they've got a unit of Stormdrake Guard. If you kill them, you'll get a victory point. Which doesn't sound a lot if you're a 40k person, but a victory point is quite a lot, because it's not like you score 5 points for just, saying, I'm putting a flag here. That's not how it works in Age of Sigmar. 1 point is quite a lot.
Raising a banner!
If you are...
It's not a flag, it's a banner!
If you're playing Stormcast Eternals, and they've got Stormdrake Guard, and you are one of Sylvaneth, Gloomspite Gits, Auric Warclan's Bone Splitters, Nighthaunt, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Head Knights of Slaanesh, or Skaven, you will not only score 1 point, you will score 2 points for every Stormdrake Guard you kill.
Okay, so it's like there's like a 2-tier rule, right? So if you're any army and you kill them, you get a victory point. If you're one of those armies in that Prime Hunters list and you kill them, you get 2 points.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. If you are a Stormcast Eternals player, and you are playing against a Stormcast Eternals player, and you killed the enemy Stormdrake Guard with your Stormdrake Guard, you don't score any points.
Right. That sounds fair.
Yes. That's how it works. And there's a bunch of choices, and they've said that they're going to update it with more as time goes on. I think it's really neat.
Yeah, I don't know how you would implement that in 40k, but I think it's an interesting mechanic. It's like an interesting way of doing it to like deal with a bit of balance between the factions. So I don't know, what would you do? Would you say like when Imperial Guard kill a Hive Tyrant, they get extra VP?
Well, let's go with like Tyranids as they are. It would be basically a case of you say priority target is Hive Guard.
Yeah.
If you kill them, you score
right now
5 points. If you are Imperial Guard, you score an additional 10 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
interesting way. Interesting way to work it.
You just take.
So I want to just return to it. Yeah, the top performing. Yeah, so Void Weavers.
Yeah. So rather than
par example,
because like in 40k it gets a little bit more difficult, right? Because I think in AOS what you have is you have a lot of kind of dedicated fans of a faction. So, for example, I love my Stormcast. I'm always going to play with my Stormcast if I have the choice. I'm always going to play with them.
Yeah.
It will be my go-to. Unless someone said, can I come down to do a battle report and I want to play with my Stormcast, in which case I would say, okay, fine, I'll use my demons. But,
right,
you have a lot of people who are dedicated fans. So you have people who are going to events anyway. They're not kind of... I think you have a lot more people who are kind of faction-locked in a way. You yourself and myself, we're not faction locked. You're not a lifelong Tyranids fan. I'm not a lifelong Demons fan. I'm a lifelong Blood Angels fan, but I also have an Imperial Knights, a Custodes army, and so on and so forth, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So I'm not faction locked in 40k, and that means I've got a lot more factions. In Age of Sigmar, I'm also not technically faction locked, but I would always want to play with my Stormcast. Always. No matter how good or how bad they are. And I took them to a number of tournaments where they were terrible.
Well, I mean,
got steamrolled.
Well, I was going to say on the subject of faction locking, I mean, that is one of the other things people have discussed about 40k, about how to change some of it at the competitive level, is that if you want to play in the ITC, the International Tournaments Commission, I believe they're called, whatever the full name of the acronym is, you pick a faction, you stick with it.
I've been saying that for months.
Yeah, I know you've been saying it for a long time. People have been talking about it. It's an interesting one. I think it would work better if... So, I mean, it comes down to, if they just were somehow, in an ideal universe, able to release all codexes at the same time. But, yeah, I think it would make it more interesting if you were kind of faction-locked for an ITC season. And I also think some, people like Richard Siegler, who's, really good player, could probably still go there and put in a good performance with, a faction that's down there.
Well, that's what I would suggest is a true mark of a player. And, the thing that I thought was very interesting, I'm going to reference Ed, who was taking Gene Stealer cults to everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And, like me taking demons to everything. It's a mark of skill of the player to do as well as you do with that faction when you're faced with the field that you're faced. Like ITT, for example, I played pretty much nothing but Custodes all weekend. And
yeah, you kicked their ass.
And I did really, really well. And so...
Really good.
Really good. I think that was quite a good indication of my skill level as a player with an army that they're not expecting particularly. I think if competitive play is going to be serious competitive play, if they want to be a serious organization, they need to learn from things like organized sport, where, for example, you pretty much all team sports, you declare who's in your team, because it stops you from 6 months in just going, we'll just sack off everyone on our team and just bring new people in. You can't do that.
Yeah. I think Rich raised a good point in your chat though, which is that one of the issues, to be fair, with faction locking is that then anybody who has playtesting knowledge has a massive advantage because they have a rough idea of what's coming. So yeah, I mean, but that's I would say that's a minor issue in the grand scheme of things. I think you're right, it's an interesting way of doing it. It would be cool. It'd be interesting to experiment with it. Mikey has just said his local league does faction list locked for 3 months, which is quite good, so you can rotate out. I mean, I played my sisters for the whole competitive season last year. That was what I wanted to do, go with the sisters, ran with them, and obviously towards the end of that, towards LGT and stuff, they didn't have a particularly good record at the time because they'd just been left behind. But they were still fun to play with, still stuck with them, still had some good games, which was good. So yeah, I think and I said I'd run my NIDs this year, and I ran them obviously at ITT, which was good fun. And yeah, I've not got another tournament booked in really, but you know, I'll see what happens with the NIDs. I mean, once Chaos Space Marines come out, they're probably gonna drop down again as we head towards book creep. But hey, who knows? Who knows?
It's one of those funny things
just to say,
of like.
Oh yeah, no, go on.
On the playtesting front, which is what Rez is saying there, is that they already do. Playtesters have that advantage anyway, which they do.
Yeah.
There's a difference, of course, isn't there? With not every playtester wants to win every tournament, but a lot.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Quite a few very visible ones do.
Yes. Yeah.
Which it's hard to kind of cast aspersions about a bunch of people, But like, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I just wanted to jump back, before we go on too far, I just wanted to jump back to a comment in my chat from OICU812, who says, someone less than a year into 40k, all the new stuff just makes me just want to get a meta army to improve my odds of actually getting a good game in. Maybe Space Marines weren't a good choice. Which, I get that. As a new player, I can respect that. It must suck when you... I mean, what flavour of Space Marines have you got, buddy? Be interested to know. All I would say is hold on, because your Space Marines will inevitably get a boost. They are the poster boys of the game. Space Marines will get something. And I would imagine we're not actually that far off of a new edition either, in the grand scheme of things.
About a year away.
Whenever there's a new... Yeah, probably about a year away into a new edition. So, yeah, I think if you like your Space Marines, stick with your Space Marines and hold on. I don't think it's... I'd say I'm a big believer, and I know this is probably going to sound like something that is not true about me when I say this, but I genuinely don't necessarily think I do. I have lots of different armies, but I wouldn't necessarily say I chase the meta. Like I'm one of these people who's gone out and bought 9 Void Weavers and built Harlequin's army, because I just don't see the point, right? By the time you build it and you paint it, it's going to get nerfed anyway if it's that abusive. You're better off leaning into something that you enjoy, like pick a faction that you like playing, or factions. It doesn't have to be one. Don't ever let anybody who does this like nonsense be like, oh, you have to pick one faction, and anybody who doesn't, blah, blah, blah. No, play as many factions or as few as you want. It's up to you. It's your hobby. Do it your way. But like, find something you enjoy painting, find something you enjoy building, find something you enjoy constructing, and you like the codex, and run with that for a while. And then when you get bored of that, switch to something else, right? Or if you do want to stick with one faction the whole time just because you absolutely love it and stick with it, then do it. Just absolutely do it. Like, you can really do it your way, but just don't. I don't think it's worth getting into this thing where you see a new codex is coming out and go, I'm gonna buy the meta army, as it were, or the meta build. Because the other thing is as well, the builds will change. So if you just lean in and get again, I'm picking on Harlequins a lot here, but if you just get 9 Void Weavers, then
the thing I would ask,
gonna get slapped.
The thing I would ask is the only reference point I can go from is something like a video game. Where
Josh, I got to stop you for a second. Mr. OICU8112 has responded. Sorry, before you go on, he's got Blood Angels, mate. He's a fellow Blood Angel.
Good man. Good man.
Good man.
You're good people. We can hang out. No, the thing is, for somebody exactly like you, you've got your Blood Angels. You love your Blood Angels. They're amazing. I completely agree with you. Blood Angels are fantastic. If your experience of the game so far has been that you just lose every game, and you're only 6 months in, it's very difficult to have any optimism that it's going to get any better. Particularly if you're not someone like me who's been around for 25 years and know all things kind of circulate. It all comes full circle. Blood Angels will have their time in the sun again. There will be a week, where they're good again, and then another codex.
A week. It'll be a day where Blood Angels are good, and then the Chaos Space Marine Codex will come out, and no, I'm kidding.
Oh no, it's not going to happen in this edition, not for a while. I get where you're coming from, man. Like, it's a sucky experience, and like with a video game, You can buy a video game. You could, if you are somebody right now who decides, I'm going to give Warzone a go. If you download Warzone right now, you unless you really love Call of Duty, but you just haven't played Call of Duty in 5 years for some reason, if you download Warzone now, you're probably going to have a bit of a bad time, because Warzone is a hard game.
I'll test that theory, because people on camera will just see my other half who's going in and out because she's prepping her box. She runs a baking business. She's prepping all her stuff for that. So I'll ask her that question, whether I should do that. Hang on. Kelly, should I get back on Warzone? Call of Duty? Should I get back on it, do you think? She says, if people probably couldn't hear that, she says, do I want to have a home to return to? So the answer to that will be no.
Yes. But so something like that you can just pick up and put back down again. Right?
Yeah.
Games Workshop is not so easy.
No, it's not. It's not at all. I think, to be fair, what also doesn't help is the lag in doing things. So because they rely so much on printed media, and don't get me wrong, I love my codexes. I think they're cool. I think it's nice, especially all the lore and also the artwork. Like, GW have been killing it in 9th edition with the artwork in 9th edition codexes. It's all really good. It's either really good because it looks really good, or it's really good because it's hilarious and throws up slightly weird things like Captain Chin of the Custodes, who's on the front with his like huge neck and massive crimson chin, or the Black Templar with the incredibly tiny head in the huge armor with the flamethrower. So it's good in two ways, both comedic value and also genuinely good art. But I love my codexes. But the problem is obviously with the codexes, with the rules set, with the balance changes, because they rely a lot on printed media, although with the balanced data state they are moving more towards electronic, it takes them longer to change the rules. So stuff that is abusive stays abusive for far longer. So I think actually you know, and I've seen people in the comments talking about the playtesting, and you know, people, I think, who was it? Sorry, yeah, Mikey's Wargaming. And your chat says, yeah, I'll playtest your game. I have a massive army of 4,000 points, and yeah, this codex is absolutely fine. Next minute, 90% win rate, a GW playtester. Well, to be fair to the playtesters, right, which is not something I often am, but to be fair to them, who has the time, right? You think about how many permutations, right? Even, you know, Tyranid book is a great example. How many permutations of good army there are in that, right? Or the Custodes book, or the Eldari army, or the Eldari book. And then testing that against, I need to find someone with a Custodes army, or a Tau army, or a Tyranid army, or Crusher Stampede specifically, or I need to find someone who has a Drakari army, or an Admech army. To get all those games in, to be able to give all that feedback, is actually quite difficult. Then maybe the playtesting model as a whole is broken. That said, you know, we know, and the Custodes book was the prime example of this, right? That there are clearly situations where the playtesters come back and give feedback and say, this thing is rubbish, it's awful, they're going to get shot off the table if they don't have their 3-up inbun, they all need to be a load of points cheaper. And then it happens, and then, you know, an already good codex goes... I mean, it'd be like giving Tyranids a day 1 points drop. It would be insane. But they did it for Custodes, you know, and then they were ridiculous. Until the Harlequins came along. So that was a good example where, like, if I was GW, I would have been on the phone or on email and being like, so when you playtested this, did you just playtest against, like, your mate Jeff and his, like, all Land Raider Imperial Fist army? You know, like, it's just slightly bizarre.
See, my thing with
some of the conclusions they came to.
If you're going to have a playtest environment, you need to model it after a gaming playtest environment.
After gaming, yeah.
And a playtest environment for games, they don't go, here's the whole game, tell us what you think. They go, your bit is this level or this section of the game. What you're going to do is you're going to do these 16 things on this list, and you're going to just, that's what you're testing. You're testing for that bug. So, for example, I did some playtesting a long time ago, a little bit of public playtesting on a couple of kind of slightly not AAA titles, but like smaller games. I was given a document and I was told, you're going to walk into this corridor, you're going to go into that corner, and you're going to jump, and you're going to do that 6 times. That's your thing, and you've only got this level on what you're going to be doing this thing. Now, there is an argument to be made that with playtesting, what you do is you give to one group, you say, right, you need to test all relics, warlord traits on every single character that there is in this book. That's the section of the book, you say, and you need to tell us how good it is. That like you know that's that. And here are the stratagems that you will have interaction with, and you're just testing this section of the game. You need to give us rigorous feedback on this particular, very specific thing, and then you collate all that. So you basically have somebody in charge of, let's say, warlords, somebody who's in charge of troops, someone who's in charge of that, this, that, and the other, and enough information for it to make sense. But you don't go, here's the whole book. What do you think? That's what a gaming playtesting environment looks like.
I think the issue with that though is that a lot of the stuff that gets busted in 40k, and you know, I assume same in AOS, right, is interactions. So like, for example, a warlord trait on its own might be powerful and you might go, oh yeah, that's reasonable, or a relic might be like, oh okay, that's fine. When you combine it with a particular different rule in combination, that's when it gets abusive. Right, that's when it gets broken. So, like, classic example is like the Triptych Whip relic plus the Warlord trait competitive edge in the Drakari book. When everybody ran, right? They ran that succubus that like doles out 2 mortal wounds every time she wounds, and also re-rolls any damage or if any damage doesn't go through, she just re-rolls. So it like generated, and then they had to fix that because it looked like it was going to be, generating endless mortal wounds, which would have been bizarre. But that's like a good example of the interaction. But yeah, I think don't not that you are, but I think people in chat, again, not I think you are either, but like the play testers, I don't think it's like all down to them. I think there is, there's something to be said about the rules writing team. Mikey's Wargaming says, hey, leave Drakari out of this. I won't. No, but they were like the example that I could think of at the top of my head, right? There's something to be said about the GW rules writing team itself, just not because they do have access to everything, starting off with, right? Mm-hmm. And you just wonder if they just don't spot some of the, certainly the more obvious stuff. Because when it comes down to spammy stuff and like cheese, let's call it, right, in 40k. Mm-hmm. I kind of respect, in a grudging way, I sort of respect the people who put the effort in to find the cheese when the cheese is hard to find, right? Which I know sounds like a really tortured metaphor, right? But if there's some combination in the book that's really good, but it depends on you getting like X, Y, and Z all to go off at the same time, and it depends on having this weird combination of units, and then you have to sort of rely on certain abilities going off and things like that, I'm kind of okay with that. It's when it's like the really, really, really obvious rules interactions that then lead to abusive lists. So for example, the Orc buggy spam, right? Mm-hmm. I think everybody saw Orc buggy spam coming a mile off. So something like that is not exactly. Sorry, Watkins says, "Hey, who hid the cheese?" Something like that is not exactly difficult to discover in the book. Whereas, like, even Broviathan, right? Like, remember Iron Hands? Remember Broviathan? That broken nonsense that they nerfed after a week? Like, Broviathan was abusive, and I'm glad it got banned. But, like, you had to put some intellectual effort into working across the different books to actually get that combination to then work for this unkillable Leviathan Dreadnought surrounded by a load of intercessors who were also grey shields from one of the like Vigilus books or something, whichever one it was, and then you have the Apothecary come in, and then you rely on an Iron Hands Warlord trait to make it a character. Like, it took a lot of combinations of stuff to even get it to work, and that was why they came up with it, because they really dug deep into the book. And again, it was abusive. I'm glad it got banned, but like, it's not, again, it wasn't as like obvious as just going, hi, I'm going to bring 18 Orc buggies. Or, as somebody will try and do with an id book, I guarantee you bring 18 Zoanthropes, which, by the way, is a bad list, and you will lose the game if you bring 18 Zoanthropes, but I guarantee you someone will try and do it.
So this is the point of where I will shill for the company a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead. We love it. We love a bit of shilling.
Because I think there is... From my perspective, there are two. I think there's a number of different narratives running alongside each other. Because I think we can look at everything that's come out, books in their basic format, with FAQs or anything like that. We can look at these books and go, all of these books are awesome, and they are.
Yeah.
Every book is fantastic. Every book is fun to play with. The whole point of Warhammer is I take my book and I go, hey Adam, do you want to play a game of Warhammer? Yeah, all right. Cool. I'll see you in an hour. Yeah, and then we'll talk about it then. Awesome. And then I turn up and I go, so I just basically brought all my Blood Angels. So we just like figure out some sort of thing, and you go, yeah, cool, we'll do that, and we just have fun.
The devastation of Baal.
We each pour ourselves a nice cold one, and we just have beer and pretzels, and we play a bit of Warhammer. It's the same as if I said, hey Adam, do you want to play Monopoly?
I go no, because I like having you as a friend.
No, but like, or let's say Dead of Winter, for example, or a board game of that ilk, something that's a little bit more complicated, right? So the game in and of itself, and all of the books, and all of the rules, and all of the models, and all of this, is perfect as it is. Now, what happens when you release this to a community that is extremely loud and demands it be used for competitive play? It becomes a different monster. Okay?
Yeah, 100%.
At that point, people exploit, different things. And then I'll point to Call of Duty, where you could make Call of Duty and you could make it so that everything's balanced against the campaign. And, the M4 is a really good gun in the campaign, so you use the M4. You then stick it into something like multiplayer, where people will go, oh, well, I really want to win all my games with multiplayer, so I will look for the best possible thing and run it in the best possible combination, and there's occasionally this bug where this gun can shoot through walls. You see?
Yeah.
So when you release it to that estate, that audience, it becomes a different thing, right? So the question I would put to a lot of people, and I know that the answer they would give me, but I actually tend to disagree with it, is if you want to play organised, competitive, tournament-based Warhammer, right?
Yeah.
That's your choice with the rules that you have, okay?
Yeah.
Now, this is typical, and I'm going to caveat this now before anyone says, yeah, but da-da-da-da-da. This is only changed since 9th edition, right? Because 8th edition, it was still the same as it had always been. Whereas 9th edition has gone, hey guys, here's our grand tournament mission pack. And it's at that point where you then go, right, so you're trying to cater to the tournament player, right?
Yeah.
As a game, as a franchise. It's saying you're trying to cater to the tournament game, right? If that is the case, then what I don't think has happened is that the books are edited from a tournament standpoint, because the difference between even the two of us, between you and me, Adam, is you look at a book primarily, you look at it on its competitive nature, right?
Yeah.
That's your first thing that you do. Whereas what I do when I get a new book is I look to see if there's an Excel spreadsheet that has a layout of how a company is made. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we did our...
Yeah, no.
So at this point then, the question becomes, whose responsibility is it to ensure that this game is tournament legal? Is it the company, or is it the community that is choosing to play it that way? Now,
I think it's both.
So as of 9th edition, I think it is GW has taken on some of that responsibility as a choice. That's the choice that they've made, because as I say, they've offered up products that are called Grand Tournament Mission Pack.
Grand Tournament Mission Pack, yeah.
And they're looking to support competitive tournaments and this, that, and the other. They're making a choice to move into that space. So, at that point, there is a choice that Games Workshop has to make, I think. And I don't think it's the one that a lot of people think it is. I think there's a choice that Games Workshop has to make, and it is, do they make these books for tournaments as a standard, or do they continue to do what they do now, which is make it for beer and pretzels? I think they continue to make it for beer and pretzels. And then General's Handbook, or no, it's not called General's Handbook, is it? It's called Chapters Approved, or whatever it's called.
Chapter Approved, yeah.
That is where you do a competitive data slate balance, and that is how you write the books. So you write the books exactly as they are now. You keep the Tyranids book exactly as it is now. But in that once every 6 months Season of War book, or once every year Chapter Approved book, or whatever it is going to be, whatever you're going to do going forward, in that book it says, so you change the wording on this rule. Let's say that, is it the adaptive physiology thing, whatever it was. You change this rule so that it says you must, for a tournament, you must declare this on your data, on your army list, if you're going to change it.
Right. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like, and that right there, that is what I think. If we're going to say that Games Workshop has a responsibility, which I think it does, not as big a responsibility as the competitive community believes it should have, but if it does have, if it does have this blah 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 blah, that I think that's what that needs to be part of it. The genuine, so like, and Mikey's Wargaming makes a good point of it. You don't have to use that ability that makes a unit reroll hits if you're playing beer and pretzels.
Well,
exactly.
Hang on.
Whereas
I'm going to get something out while you're sort of talking.
Whereas in tournament play, of course, you also don't have to use that ability, but that would be silly not to. Right? What are you doing? So,
I'll tell you exactly what I'm getting my knife out, which should frighten you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're in South London now, mate. No, I'm getting my knife out because what I was going to do, and I meant to get these open at the weekend and bring them with me actually, and here comes the deliveries. Was bring the, hold it up for my camera and I'll hold it up for your camera, which is the Tempest of War. So this is GW's sort of new card set, which attempts to provide you with another way of playing matched play that isn't necessarily the super competitive grand tournament mission pack, but it's basically a game in a box, right? So in this you get 2 sets of cards and you basically get your secondary objectives, maps, the lot in here, that allow you to play a game that's a little bit more random and therefore, in theory, a little bit more balanced. And I like this. Mr. Watkins says, knew the cards were coming. They are a great example. So I would say, and actually I'll go to a comment in my chat as well, I would say if you want to play a match play game, and I'd be interested to see if people, given the way the meta is and with the problems it has, I'd be interested to see if people start doing tournaments based on this. I think this set is how you actually introduce a little bit more balance, potentially, alongside balancing out the actual armies themselves. Because fundamentally, this introduces a lot more randomness into the game that then means you're like, oh, I've built my army to score these 3 secondaries. It will score these 3 secondaries, and there is F all you can do about it. You can't do that with this because you can't plan for it. So it encourages you to take a much more balanced force, less spam, right? You can still take good units. So I wanted to play this on Saturday. I say on the weekend. It's still the weekend. Yesterday when I went to a game day with Mr. Gwatkin actually and some others. But I forgot to bring them, so we didn't play it. We also did a 5x5 versus 5 game, so would it have worked? Probably not. But I really want to give these a go. And as I say, I know Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming has already, because he said in his stream on last week and said, oh, should I do a tournament based on this? And I was certainly one of the people who was like, yes, please do. I'd love to see what a tournament looks like with this. And as an alternative to events like the Bristol GT, like Manchester GT, like LGT, which are just the same missions over and over with the same optimized secondaries, etc. And he's doing a tournament with this. I'd be really interested to see who can come up with this. And you will have seen all the YouTubers, I guess technically you're a YouTuber, you're much bigger than me, but I guess technically I'm a YouTuber now. But all the gaming YouTubers that do battle reports that have room to do them, spoiler, I don't. When I do, I will do battle reports. When I will get Josh up here and we will reenact the devastation of Baal, and then he can kill my Swarm Lord with his Dante.
Keep a secret.
They are all doing. Yeah, they are all doing Tempest of War, and they're all really excited about it, and they're people that play the game obviously a lot more frequently, which is really nice.
So what I've seen is really interesting about that card set is not actually the card set itself. What I've seen, and this is very interesting, it's a very philosophical debate, and it might be something for people to go away and think about, but a lot of people have been pointing to this card set saying, oh, if you want to play relaxed games of match play 40k, you now have this. Now, the problem with wording it that way is what you're saying is the default position of 40k
is that you don't have that.
Is that you don't have that, and that what you do is you play competitive Warhammer as default, you play competitive Grand Tournament Warhammer, and now you have this product to allow you to not. When actually, again, playing Grand Tournament competitive Warhammer, that's choice. That's the thing above and beyond. I really love the new cards. I think it's really cool. This is where I think the debate kind of falls down a little bit. Is the Tyranid book broken? No, none of the books are broken as books. Are they broken as soon as you introduce it to a competitive community? Wholeheartedly. They definitely are. They definitely are. Because if you are somebody who is a big fan of, in fact, let's take you as an example, Adam. In the new Tyranid book, are there ways to create your own Hive Fleet?
Yes, there are.
Are you ever going to use them, or are you just going to run it as Leviathan?
It depends. If I'm going, and this will answer your point quite accurately, I think. If I'm going to a tournament, I'll run them as Leviathan or Behemoth. I think there's some cool Behemoth builds. If I'm running it as just like a narrative event or a casual game, I might well do a combo random Hive Fleet that I'll make up, because there's some cool abilities in there.
Yeah. So that kind of illustrates my point.
But that illustrates the point, right? Yeah. You go to a competitive tournament. But again, it's. And this is not a defense of me at all, because I don't think I need to defend myself. But I think that's as you say, it kind of gets to the exact point you are trying to get at, which is that there's this kind of. It's the prisoner's dilemma, right? Like, I know that other people who are going to that tournament are going to be taking the hardline stuff that they can, so I do it.
Yes.
Because I want to. I mean, I'm not going to win the damn thing, or I'm very unlikely to, but I want to try and place as well as I can, right? Yeah. So it's that arms race constantly, which is why, and I think this is a nice segue into this, which is why, because we have to mention it once per stream, as I seem to mention it once per podcast. Events like Fun and Fluff, run by that Mr. Gwatkin has helped run in the past, are really nice. Because Fun and Fluff is an event which gives you Highlander list restrictions, which doesn't have mission secondaries, which kind of puts you into a slightly different mode of still competitive, but more kind of relaxed play, which is good. Yeah. Which is good, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I just wanted to say, just a callback, sorry, to people in my chat, and apologies, because we're working across two chats here on two streams, and also two cameras, which is why, by the way, if people are watching, they're seeing me on Josh on your stream on my, slightly crappy Mac camera, and I've got my sort of proper camera up here, which doesn't seem to sync up for some reason, but that's why I'm doing this a lot and, looking between cameras, so sorry if I'm making anybody ill by doing that. But what I was going to say is, Dave in the chat, Dave B in my chat, says... something you said here. Who remembers 2 shotgun akimbo in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2? I remember that, Dave. I remember people who would sit in the corner and do that. And not that he's going to be watching the stream, but I will give you a little fact now, which is that Mr. John Hickton, otherwise known as Aceface, otherwise known in the 40k world as Twisted Dice, who I have known a very long time because he was my boss, as I think I mentioned previously, in one of my first jobs out of high school that I had, my part-time job. We used to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 together, and that was his favourite thing to do, sit in the corner with his akimbo shotguns, and he was very good at it. He didn't like the fact I developed a little speedy class that did that annoying thing where you hit the button and you fly forward about 6 foot with the knife. Yeah, I used to do that a lot.
I can Chitaro.
That's the equivalent of the Harlequins, by the way, in Modern Warfare 2. That was the equivalent of the Harlequins.
The Model T was jokes. Yeah, the Model T was jokes. Twin Model Ts. Oh god, it was awful. The question that we've been asked is, are we going to the Bristol GT? Unfortunately, we're not going to the Bristol GT.
No, we're not going to the Bristol GT.
It's funny because Bristol GT, had I known at the time, and I would have booked it further ahead, because I'm busy next weekend seeing my folks, but it's actually perfect for me because it's only down the road. I end up going to all these tournaments that are very far away, and then they host one down in Bristol, and I don't go to it. It's stupid. I'm an idiot. But yeah, it's a very interesting world that we find ourselves in. I think for 40k, because I think the problem is not with. Again, this is why I said when I caveated it earlier by saying I'm going to shill for the company a little bit here. I don't think the problem is necessarily at the root of it is I don't think you can just solely say that Games Workshop needs to get better at writing books. I think there's a degree of and I've talked about it at length, I think offline, around competitive Warhammer, about how competitive Warhammer demands X, but they refuse to accept Y as things that need to change. And like we were talking about earlier, things like having to declare your faction at the beginning of the season, that's fairly standard for organised sport. You know, like I said, football does it. You know,
You're telling me I can't just pick a new team every game? Is that not how football works? I thought that's how football. I can just be like, I'll take Ronaldo this game because I'll take three Ronaldos. I can have 3 per 11-man detachment, right? And that'll work.
Yeah, but like similarly, things like if you take the Premier League as an example, as football as an example, the British, let's take the UK Football League. There are rules against, for example, purposely fielding weak teams to avoid, harder results. You get massively fined.
I can't submarine.
You can't submarine in sport.
Who would do a thing like that?
It was you, wasn't it? Told me about the badminton at the Olympics.
Yeah, that was the great example of it, right? Where there's someone at the badminton at the Olympics was like deliberately losing and stuff to place higher. Yeah, which is quite funny. They got banned,
and they got banned because that's not something that you can do. Declaring your, in football, you have 2 transfer windows at the beginning of the season and 1 in January, which is where you can sign new players. It would be if maybe season you say after 6 months you
swap out your faction.
You can swap out your faction should you choose to, where you'll see a massive dynamic shift. But this, that, and the other, it would rate the skills of the players, this, that, and the other. Smaller games in order to fit more in to have a greater spread, things like that. So instead of instead of 2,000 point games of 40k where you play 5 or 6 or 7 over 2 days, you actually realistically should be playing like 8 or 9 games with a much smaller amount of things to get a better rigorous scoring. But people don't want to do that. What they want is the book to come out and be perfect, and then they play.
So I think the tournament. So I think the tournament thing would be a big adjustment as well. Like maybe we have more 1,500 point tournaments, or even 1,000 point tournaments. Maybe that would be more interesting. I was gonna say we have gone over time on the stream, but I think we should just carry on for like another sort of carry on until it's got 1:45ish, just because I've got the time, and also chat is making some interesting points. So I just want to say, Mike, Mr. Brom from DZTV is in my chat. So good evening, Brom. I hope you're well. Who I had great fun with at the Dempsey Con event previous Saturday, and he was saying he's played a few games with the Tempest of War cards, and they are really, really, really good. He's having good fun with them. So good recommendation from someone who's getting to play a lot of the games. And Don Benson in my chat says, I've been taking my time painting Leviathan over the last 2.5 years. I hope they are still fun to play against for my opponents. You're going to have to I'm going to warn you now, you are probably going to have to do a bit of list tuning there to make sure, because Leviathan is very, very good. But of course, if it is too much and you're willing to do so, run it as a different Hive Fleet. You can do that. And Andrew in your chat has asked, at 40k events, can you pick the same secondaries every game, or do you have to pick new ones each round? I know some game systems have done that in the past. So the way 40k match play grand tournament mission pack works, you just pick from the list of secondaries. So yes, you can pick at the beginning of each game the same secondaries over and over. And to go back to what I was saying earlier, most people that are going to a GT level, a competitive tournament, you build your army list, obviously both to be good, but also you build it around probably 2 secondaries with an option of a third, because obviously there are some where you will go into a game and that third secondary will not be achievable, right? So a classic example I will give you, when I ran Crusher Stampede at the ITT or other tournaments, I would generally go for Stranglehold on a 5 objective map, because it's a good secondary on a 5 objective map, and Russia are very good at taking your primary positions to give you primary objectives to give you the secondary, and then I've got like options around to the last with my units that are very good, that are very big and very tough and a lot of points, and then like Psychic Interrogation, because it was a really good secondary in the new book and I had some psychic output. But obviously I'm not going to run Psychic Interrogation into Grey Knights or Thousand Suns or like New Eldar, because they'll just deny it and then you lose your points, right? But you do build around your secondaries. I think I see what Andrew's saying about forcing new secondaries each round forces adaptation and flex. Yeah, I think that's true. Maybe that is one way of doing it. But again, I think we've got this, right? I just want to see more tournaments use this, because I think this does the same. Because you say it forces adaptation and flex, but you can still build an army which is really good and goes, okay, I can do, I've got a choice of list of maybe 6 or 7 secondaries that I can then lean into. Oh, stop it, you. People on my channel, look at the bottom of the screen. How have you done that? That's all contrast. How have you done that? It looks like the box art.
I thought
you're a wizard.
I thought I would.
I don't like it.
I haven't shown off this bad boy yet the stream, so I thought I'd just pick him up. Yeah, the majority of that is contrast paint. There's actually a lot of contrast paint on there. But the good news is, you'll be able to see exactly how I did that and paint along yourself very, very soon. This week you will, in fact, because I have filmed it.
When's it out? This week?
It'll be out this week, yeah.
Go to Warhipster. If you're not on Warhipster chat already, go to youtube.com/Warhipster and check out Josh's painting tutorials generally. But if you're an Eldar fan, if you have an avatar of Kane, look at the bloody thing. I know it's only small on my stream, but do go over and have a look at it, because it is a delight. And I've seen the pictures of this thing in progress, and let me tell you, it's pretty bloody cool. So do go and watch that.
It's so nice. It should be out on Thursday.
Nice. Nice.
I'm so pleased.
Do you know what? Actually, just on going back to Dom in my chat, who asked about Leviathan. He actually said his normal opponent plays Blood Angels, Josh. So he said narrative is anything, but Leviathan Transhuman and Mini Transhuman basically turns off a good chunk of the Blood Angels trait. It certainly does, Dom. I would suggest avoiding that. Maybe.
Oh my poor, friendly, lovely Blood Angels! You cannot catch a break. Cannot catch a break at the moment. It's so sad. As some of people may be aware, I played against Lawrence and his World Eaters on Tabletop Tactics with my Blood Angels, and I said to him at the time, I was like, if I was using Blood of Baal era Blood Angels, this game would be entirely me. I would have won this, no problem. But somehow our 9th edition Codex came out and just went, yeah, nah.
Yeah, I don't know. Blood Angels, right? Do you know what? I entered Mephiston in our painting competition this weekend for our little group. Didn't win, obviously, but he did quite well, and I was proud to represent the Sons of Baal and, of course, the Chief Librarian of the Blood Angels. A man in our hearts.
The guys are being very nice in my chat about my avatar. Thank you very much.
Well, they're right. They're right. It is so close to the box art. It's insane. I'm convinced you are using some kind of black magic, and I've been to your place and I've seen the sacrificial altar. Oh no, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about the sacrificial altar. Many Bothans died to bring me these recipes.
What's the Family Guy thing? Bunch of Bothans sent them to get me a coffee. All dead.
Many Bothans died to bring us those plans. Oh. 5 out of 10.
Just before we finish, I was going to say a little appeal from me. If you are enjoying the stream, please do drop a like and a subscribe, preferably on my channel at 5minute 40k if you're not already, just because I'm at like 920 subscribers, which isn't obviously is nothing in the grand scheme of things, but I just want to get over the line of 1,000, not for my own pride, but mainly because it then opens up the ability to have like community posts, so I can just talk to you people, you lovely people who come and join my chat and talk to us in these streams. And I'd love to be able to do that when I don't get time to post videos other than this stream during the week, so I could do a bit more of that. So if you wouldn't mind lending me your friends, Romans, countrymen, 40k iOS players, lend me your subscribes, and you will get quality chat from me.
You should.
When
everyone
I can.
Here, everyone watching me should go and subscribe to 5minute 40k. Let's get him over 1,000. Let's do it. Because then Adam can monetize his channel, and then he can finally give up being a lawyer.
No, I'm not doing that. Just to be clear, I'm not doing that. Not for a long time. I will continue to give away prizes. And by the way, I should say, Mr. Biltong Boob, your prize. So you did win a prize in last week's stream, and I have your prize, and it is going in the post tomorrow because I was so busy with work this week. I actually didn't get a chance to post it, but it is right here. I won't hold it up to the camera, but it is there. It is packaged up and labelled and on its way to you, Mr. Biltong Boob, fairly shortly.
Mikey's Wargaming just said, Josh, I've won 2 character painting comps at tournaments, and you've helped a lot with your tutorials. Thanks. That's amazing, Mikey's Wargaming. That's awesome. I'm so glad I could help.
That is amazing.
You've won 2 more character painted tutorial comps at tournaments than I have in recent times.
Send. Do you know what? Drop a DM, Mikey's Wargaming. Do DM both. Josh, I'm assuming you would like to see both Warhipster and myself, ADR Wargaming on Instagram. Do DM us the pictures of the ones you won with, because I'd love to see them. Because I use Josh's tutorials as well, because I think they're fantastic, and also because I love contrast paint, and Josh is a sorcerer of contrast of some kind. But do DM us with your pictures, because I would love to see those as well.
Maybe you can win a tournament with this guy.
Yeah. With your avatar.
Yeah. Or, as is upcoming this guy, the Scriptum Mortis, or as Mikey said earlier, a decent succubus conversion, the High Gladiatrix from the Witch Elf tournament. Both of which I'm going to be doing videos for. Which is going to be super fun. Which will be awesome.
And if there's anything, given that the book is out, and I've been play testing it a little bit in the sense of playing games with the one that got released early that I think the whole internet has. If there's anything more you would like to know about Tyranid Codex or any questions, anyone got new Tyranid players, old Tyranid players, because everything has changed in the book, do drop me a message and I can do a little video on it, or I will try to this week. That'd be awesome.
Jonathan has asked you a question, Adam.
Jonathan, where are we? Oh yes, just come up. When is the next Conclave episode coming out? Right, this is a perennial question. I had this from people at DMCCon. The next Conclave episode, basically everything has been delayed by a combination of us going on holiday to places, and then a few of us getting ill, and then also the fact that Sandman's internet is not really good enough for him to be able to do streams like this or to record. So myself and I'll try and get Quipster, but certainly myself and Reza, who is in the chat, we are going to try and record an episode this week. Right, and we will get one out to you, because I appreciate there are people who are waiting on the Conclave, and it has been a little while since the last episode. So it will probably be absolute nonsense with me and Mr. Richard, Mr. Reza Prime, just chatting away. You know what we might even do to spice things up a little bit? We might even, and I am fully in favour of this, if you're available, Mr. Warhipster,
yes,
perhaps you would like to come on. And we can talk about something new. Maybe we can talk about AOS, a bit delayed, but maybe we can talk about the new AOS edition, because we talked about AOS with you before, and now everything's changed, and now we've got Thondia, and now we've got all this, so you can read up on Thondia and tell us all about the new edition and give us a lowdown on AOS. Would people like that? Would people like to see that? I know I would like to listen to it.
Well, let's get your people to talk to my people, yeah?
My agent will give you a call.
Yeah, your agent can talk to my agent.
My agent is me.
We can see if we can. I wish I had.
It's me putting on an accent.
Oh, that's what it is.
You'd like to come on the Conclave, eh? Yeah. Yeah, it's me doing a terrible Groucho Marx impression.
Yes. Oh, and we've also got to do Tales. You need to.
Yes, we have got Tale of. I know. We have got Tale of Many Warhipsters coming up. And Chewy has just said in my chat we should plug as well, which is Codex and Coffee, which is the podcast that Mr. Warhipster here does with our friend Rachel, the Warhammer girl. And I was lucky enough to get to be a guest star on the latest episode, which in which we talked about the history of the Astartes and the Space Marines and their origins. And I even did a little bit of ad hoc voiceover work. And the intro to the podcast is me, and what Rachel has done with it is astounding. I was very happy with that. And Chewy also says he thinks I would make it further through the trials. Sorry, Josh.
I suspect.
I'm not just saying that. You can check the chat. I'm not just making that up.
I suspect Adam would. Honestly, I think I said on the chat that I probably wouldn't even make it. I think I said, didn't I? I said. If I was trying to become a Blood Angel Space Marine, I'd walk out into the irradiated wastelands and immediately die of exhaustion right there.
I like the idea you wouldn't die of exhaustion so much as just go, and I think I would be in the same boat. You just go and go, it's not really worth it, is it? I prefer being a sort of irradiated hermit. Should we just go back and have a cup of tea and a game of Warhammer? Yeah, let's do that.
Sounds better. All my stuff's inside, you know.
Yeah, it's inside my lead-lined caravan. You know. Oh dear. Well, yeah.
I think
on that note, yeah, on that bombshell, it's time to end.
Next time.
Next time, Adam plays some Warhammer, Josh plays some Warhammer, and Rich plays some Warhammer.
I don't think we've got the musical rights to the Allman Brothers band, so we'd have to come up with something else.
No, I won't get us demonetized.
But thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Yes, thank you for joining us, guys.
Always a pleasure.
As always. And we will see you. Yes, and always love to see you too, Mr. Warhipster, Mrs. Josh. And we will see you, of course, during the week for we will be recording Tale of Many Warhipsters, which will be out soon. Check out Josh's tutorials over on his channel, and check out Codex and Coffee and the Conclave as well.
Indeed.
Thank you for joining us.
I will see you all
and
next
have a wonderful time.
When will you be doing a vid on a game of AOS? Soon, Kataro. Soon, I promise. Right. Bye-bye. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Happy hobbying. Bye-bye.